Carl Hagan, it's time to come to work. Paging Carl Hagan. No, you can't. Have to have some fun, right? I have to give you some grief, Carl.
I'm glad.
What's that?
It's all the stuff about homes that's been in the
Okay, I'll take that later. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. We're so happy that you're all here to celebrate our chief and all of the other people in the audience tonight. So with that, I would like to call to order the May 14th, 2013 regular meeting of the Placerville City Council. I'd like to invite you to stand with me, and Chief Nielsen, would you please lead us tonight in the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. May we have the roll call, please, Ms. Zito?
Certainly. Councilmember Borelli? Here. Vice Mayor Hagan?
Here.
Mayor Mattson?
Here?
Councilmember Patton?
Here.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Here.
Thank you. And with that, we move on to announcements and presentations to the public. Item 3.1, our very special Community Cleanup Day, which is just a wonderful asset to our city. And Ms. Zito, would you please talk about the festivities on June 15th?
Well, there'll be all sorts of festivities on June 15th, including the county fair. But our event is going to be at the Mosquito Park and Bus. And it'll be on that Saturday, June 15th, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's a free event. You can bring any kind of trash, recyclables, gently used items. Snowline Hospice will be there to accept, and green waste. So tell your neighbors. We haven't been able to do as much advertising this year as we have in the past, so pass the word. At the last event, we found that because it's the number of times you can come through, the line is unlimited. We had folks go back and had elderly neighbors who couldn't clean their own yards and volunteered to pick up some stuff and bring it on their behalf. So it's a really nice day. People are really appreciative. Everyone's in a pretty good mood, and we try to move the cars through as quickly as possible. So pass the word. Saturday, June 15th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Mosquito Road Park and Bus Facility for the Community Cleanup Day. And we just got the date, if you want to start working towards the next one, of September 28th will be our Fall Community Cleanup Day.
Right. Well,
thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, and want to thank all of our city staff who take part on that day. It's much appreciated. I have a few more other announcements. This week is National Police Week, and it's so nice to see a lot of our police force here tonight to support our chief and our interim chief that's coming in. And in recognition for our force that is here, I would like to thank them for the very successful resolution of the child abduction case a couple of weeks ago. Just our utmost thanks to Chief Nielsen, Interim Chief Scott, Sergeant Bailaruki, Lieutenant Nida, and officers Caiaphas, pardon me, and Jordan. That was just a really wonderful story where an alert manager and a wonderful mom that turned into a mama bear, and the fact that because we are a small community with a very vibrant police force, that they were able to be there in 3 minutes. And because of their successful resolution of that case, a beloved child is at home with her family where she belongs. And a deranged man is enjoying our county jail facilities where he belongs. So just want to thank all of our police force for a very successful resolution of that potentially tragic event. I think that's a wonderful way to honor our law enforcement during National Police Week. Also would like to remind everyone that our beloved Farmers Market opened last week. So come out on Saturday in the Ivy House parking lot and enjoy that wonderful event in our town. And the last announcement that I have is that this is my last council meeting. as Mayor Wendy Mattson. I will be gone for 2 weeks, and I will be returning the first week in June as Wendy Thomas, because I'm getting married next week. So, and, so I will be changing my name to Wendy Thomas, and Carl, you can hold on to the fort while I'm gone. So thank you. Okay.
I'll try.
All right, with that, we have a closed session report. City Attorney Driscoll, is there any reportable action?
Yes, there is, Mayor. Thank you. With respect to the Robocaba change, I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. or claim, Robocaba. With all council members present, the council unanimously rejected that claim. The same is true of the Reynolds claim. It was unanimously rejected by all council members present. And the other matters, the council did not take reportable action.
Thank you very much, City Attorney Driscoll. All right, and with that, we move on to item 5, adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, council?
I'll move for adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in approval?
Aye.
So moved. All right. And with that, we get on to item 6, ceremonial matters. Item 6.1, we have the oath of office to interim chief of police, Michael Scott. So please join us up here, and Ms. Zito will do the honors.
You can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Michael Scott,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations, Chief Scott.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Glad to have you on board. We are delighted to have you on board, Interim Chief Scott, and we thank you so much for fulfilling this and leading our police force forward upon the chief's departure. So happy to have you aboard, and thank you so much. Next, we move on to item 6.2, the Mayor's Beautification Award. This wonderful program was started by our former mayor, Mark Acuna, who is in the the front row. We are delighted to have you with us. Thank you so much. And it is my privilege to continue this wonderful community acknowledgement program that you started. So, and we have 4 awards tonight because we've been a little derelict in our duties as far as presenting them monthly. So with that, I'd like to call the 4 people up to the front, and I'm going to say some words about all of them and then present them to you all at once. So with that, may we please, I believe Precision Eye Care is not going to be here tonight. Is Dr. Merrill not in attendance? I think he had gone home sick today. So Lanny from the Carey House, and a representative from Torino's restaurant. Jose was going to send someone. And Richard Esposito, please come to the front. That's perfect. Right by the podium is perfect. All right. So with that, let me start with Precision Eye Care. Those of you may remember the old derelict gas station on Lower Main Street that just sat for years as an eyesore. And we are so very pleased that Precision Eye Care had the vision to turn that space.
Oh, that was good.
Oh, thank you. It's true, though. I mean, who would look at that ugly old gas station and think, this could be a beautiful building. I mean, that takes,
Somebody with vision.
it takes good vision to do that. That's right. And,
Police anyway.
and now it is a standing example of a beautiful architecture, and we really appreciate the natural elements to our community that they added to the building and the landscaping that they put into that old asphalt parking lot. So just our thanks and our commendations to Dr. Merrill of Precision Eye Care. And next we have Lanny Hardy of the Carey House. It's so nice to see you here tonight. And let's see. Let me see my notes here. I don't have perfect vision. Lanny, you're new manager of the Carey House, relatively new, so to speak. And I'd like everyone to know that this has come from our city manager, Chief Morris, that every morning as Cleve Morris is, Cleve Morris is coming to work, he sees Lanny out there sweeping the sidewalk in front of the Carey House, sweeping the alleyway behind the hotel. He's even gotten out there and power washed the alleyway, the bricks, each individual brick in the alleyway on his own. And you're beautifying our downtown with your blood, sweat, and tears. And we really appreciate all your efforts in the heart of our downtown. And in addition, I've heard that because of your efforts, your bookings are up at the Carey House, which means there are more people in the middle of our city enjoying our merchants and our restaurants and taking advantage of all the amenities that Placerville has to offer. So we greatly appreciate you for your efforts in that, too. That's a very important service to our community. And next we have Torino's Restaurant. Those of you, Jose, who has Bricks and Cascada and now Torino's, he has taken an old building that was vacant for a long time, for years and years, where the old La Casa Grande used to stand. Now I'm dating myself. And now it's a vibrant eatery, another one in the heart of our downtown. So we greatly appreciate his efforts on that.
Wendy, can I add
Yes,
something to that?
absolutely.
Torino's used to be, as you remember, Vesuvio's Pizzeria, which was my late husband's restaurant. I have to tell you, the only thing that I recognize are those 4 doors that are leading in there, because I bought those doors. But I am thrilled to see what they've done with that restaurant and kept it alive.
Oh, that's fun. And next we have Mr. Richard Esposito. Thank you so much for coming here. We always enjoy having Wendy in our house, and it's nice to have you here too. And we want to thank you for your efforts in once again seeing the possibility of the old, vacant, obsolete Blockbuster building that had been sitting for years, rotting, and seeing the potential of that. And last week, I had the opportunity to go in the new Mountain Democrat offices, and they're beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and appreciate that you stayed inside the city limits. And not only did you repurpose a vacant, obsolete building, but you brought an exciting new retail tenant onto Broadway. And so you didn't leave a vacant, obsolete building. You repurposed that too. So you did double duty, and we really, really appreciate that. So congratulations on your new digs, and thank you for facilitating bringing Tractor Supply Company to Broadway. We really appreciate that. So with that, I'd like to present you with your Mayor Beautifications Awards. And please, everyone, give them a round of applause. Those are always fun. Thank you again, Mark, for your great idea. All right. With that, we move on to item 6.3, a proclamation declaring May 2013 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the city of Placerville. And I'd like to invite Kathy Hartram, is she in the audience tonight, to come to the podium, as well as Lieutenant Nida. Oh, Maureen. I'm so sorry, Maureen. Please join Lieutenant Nida. Welcome again. All right. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Placerville recognizing May is Mental Health Month. Whereas millions of Americans, including children, may experience a mental disorder at some point during their lives and lose hope that they can have a desirable and meaningful future, and whereas Americans recognize that comprehensive and accessible mental health care services in their communities can effectively treat many disorders, and whereas the City of Placerville has made a commitment to community-based systems of mental health care for all residents, and whereas the guiding principles of community mental health care have always been comprehensiveness, cost efficiency, effective management, high quality, recovery-oriented, consumer-responsive services, and that those principles are now being adopted by private and public healthcare providers, and whereas federal, state, and local governments continue to struggle with ways to ensure all Americans who need physical and behavioral health care services can receive the help they need, and whereas without hope, there is no recovery, hope gives us the desire and energy to be active, to accomplish, and to make a contribution to others. Now, therefore, I, Wendy Mattson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Placerville, State of California, do hereby proclaim May 1st through May 30th, 2013, as May is Mental Health Month. So, okay.
Maureen Foch, President, National Alliance of Mental Illness, El Dorado County. This proclamation is very important to increase the understanding and awareness about mental health disorders. They are diseases like any other diseases. They're nobody's fault. It's not a flaw of character. Our aim at NAMI is to reduce the stigma surrounding mental illness. Besides NAMI, another very important program in our city and county is our crisis intervention with our law enforcement. And this year, NAMI is introducing a new award for the Placerville Police Department. And this will be, as we also do for the county sheriffs, this will be the Crisis Intervention Officer of the Year. And the very first Placerville Crisis Intervention Officer of the Year is our own Chief George Nielsen. And I will turn this over to Lieutenant Nida.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
I just want to say a few words about the CIT multidisciplinary team for the City of Placerville. We have joined the team in the last couple years, and it is a group of agencies within the county that communicate about those that are directly affected by the mental illnesses here in the city and in the county. And part of that team, I want to recognize Sergeant Todd Hammett from the Sheriff's Office. He started the team, and without this team, we wouldn't be able to get together like we do and make the difference and the impact. It's impacted law enforcement because we're able to follow through with the cases and find out not just on a law enforcement level, but on more agency level of what is happening with all the people that we deal with on a day-to-day basis sometimes. So I want to just turn it over to Todd really quick and also thank him for starting the MDT CIT here in the county. Todd.
Good evening. I'll just take a quick minute. The goal of crisis intervention as well as the multidisciplinary team is to reduce recidivism and increase safety for all members of the community here in the city and in the county. I'd like to thank Chief Nielsen for his dedication and his effort towards developing the programs here within the city, and it takes the support at the top for these programs to function. So without him, and we were fortunate enough to recognize him tonight, without him, these programs wouldn't continue to prosper. So we'd like to take the time to recognize him and thank him. And I'd also like to recognize Kathy Hartram. She's the former president of NAMI here in El Dorado County, and she was kind enough to come tonight. Extremely dedicated lady, as well as her husband back here in the back, Larry. They have dedicated their lives, even though they're supposed to be retired and enjoying themselves. They're extremely dedicated to the mental health community, and they continue to push forward with all of their efforts for those who suffer from mental illness. Thank you.
Thank you so much all for being here. That is such an important service you provide our community. With that, we move on to item 6.4, and this one is bittersweet. Recognition of retiring Chief George Nielsen. And just have a few words to start us off. Actually, why don't you start us off, Mr. Morris?
I'm going to make this short, at least my part, because I know there's a lot of other people that want to speak to this tonight, and I'll let them take the time. But I wanted to personally extend my appreciation and thanks to George Nielsen. He's been, coming into a new city as a city manager, there's always concerns, how are you going to fit, both with the community and with your department heads, especially, who we work very closely together. And George has been great to work with, no problems. We haven't always agreed. We have disagreements from time to time, but we've always been able to work through those and come to a successful conclusion to whatever the issue is. And I want to thank him. I want to thank his family who's here tonight for their support in allowing me to have him for a couple of years that he's been here since I've been here. And thank you very much, George. It's been a pleasure working with you. You've been a great example of professionalism and operating and running your department and working with me, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, Cleve. I think it's remarkable that today represents 30 years of service in law enforcement and 9 as a chief of police. And that is a huge accomplishment. It's important to recognize that the average tenure for a police chief is 3 years. Our own Chief Nielsen is one of the most tenured police chiefs in the entire state of California. And so our entire community has benefited from his longevity in that position. And that's just an incredible gift that you've given our community, Chief. Anyone that knows you certainly can see the strength that you have and the passion for law enforcement. But those that know you also can see your heart for people. And I think that has made you such a tremendously effective, special chief of police. Your passion for service is certainly shown in the inordinate amount of your time and your talents that you give our community outside of your job. And just would like everyone to recognize that Chief Nielsen is served and is currently serving on the boards of the Center for Violence-Free Relationships, New Morning Youth and Family Services, the Marshall Foundation, the Boys and Girls Club, Placerville Masons, El Dorado County Law Enforcement Chaplaincy, and he's also Assistant Boy Scout Master with his son. And I mean, all of us that have been on boards, that is a tremendous amount of time and energy and care that you give our community in those areas. And I think your service on all those boards has allowed you to create the community policing force that we have that has been incredibly effective in our community. The fact that your approach to law enforcement has served Placerville so very well, and your heart for our people has been so effective. I think it's really important to realize that during George's tenure as our chief of police, Placerville's crime rate has been reduced by 56%. That is huge. And what's even more impressive is that that was done in very, very lean budget years. That's amazing, Chief Nielsen. The average experience of our police force under your tutelage and tenure has gone from 3 years to 11 years. So once again, we're benefiting from an experienced police force, which has not always been the case, and that's a tremendous gift you've given our community as well. You've been very successful in obtaining grants and funding for your department and therefore our city. And you've also cleaned up the bar scene downtown. I think you spent about 18 months, and those of us can recall a couple of years ago, Placerville got pretty rough after dark, and you kind of hated to go down there about 10 o'clock at night. And now, downtown Placerville in the evenings is a bustling, vibrant city of exciting eateries, thanks in great part to your work to clean up that part of town. You've been a tremendous ambassador for our city in very tough experiences and in happy occasions. I think it's kind of fun to know that our Chief Nielsen was on the Today Show wearing leopard high heels once, supporting a Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event, and that's quite a sight. Sue and Spencer and Chase, we want to thank you for sharing George with us. Really appreciate that, and I know you will enjoy getting him back. And we'll look forward to seeing you, George, riding Bobby, your horse, in more wagon trains. But once again, we can't thank you enough for your tremendous dedication to your city. We will miss you tremendously, but you will be leaving a lasting legacy for this city. And thank you so much. So with that, I'd like to invite the council for any remarks, and then Mr. Morris and I will be presenting you with a gift, and then we'll open it up to the community. We see Supervisor Veerkamp has come to honor our chief too. So thank you for being here. So, any council members would like to say something?
Well, I would. I've known George for several years. He's been on the New Morning Board of Directors. He's given for years to this community. Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to say amen to everything that Wendy said. I don't see that I could say anything more, but we certainly are going to miss you, and just thank you again for all that you've contributed during your years.
Well, Chief, I have known you over the years. I was on the committee when you first got the job, and have appreciated your leadership and your strength, your calm strength that has moved our police force into a new era, and have appreciated all that. And I'm bummed that I didn't see you in the leopard skin high heels. I only saw you in the red ones. At any rate, I appreciate all that you've given to the city, and thank you to the family also for giving up your husband and your father for so many years. It's been really, really appreciated, and I don't think anyone could say it better than what Mayor Mattson said, but really it has been an honor to work with you and to have you as our chief of police.
I say thank you and congratulations, and enjoy your family.
Yeah. If I now invite anyone else that would like to honor our chief to please come forward to the podium. Good evening, Supervisor Veerkamp. Thanks so much for coming.
And thank you, and George, thank you for the honor of being here to say hopefully just a few words for you, as we've been sitting on our rears since 8 o'clock this morning. So I don't want to belabor this too long, but I look around this room and I see a lot of responsible people that made George's career get to this point. First and foremost, his family, but others, retired Chief Brown in the back there, and others. I could go on and on with this crowd as well as up here, and it was amazing to see Carl Hagan choked up. He didn't even give us a farmer's statement. That's an internal joke from Kiwanis. But on a serious note, George, we go back a long time, and I'm very proud, and I think utmost to call you friend. And Mayor Mattson went through the long list of your current obligations and accomplishments besides being a police chief, but those things have made you successful. They've made this community successful and this city successful. And I can't say much more than what she did, but you have to know from myself and being involved with you, and I remember the leopard skin shoes, and luckily it stopped there. But, George, many involvements, from a first responder approach to running the department. You've been the entire deal and the complete package, and brought up through the ranks as nothing more important than that, and achieved the top success. So we know you're not going away. We're going to lean on you for many things. And again, that's what having a good, successful, safe community is all about. And I just, for myself, appreciate everything you've done and wish you so much in the future success. And the Board of Supervisors would like to honor you next Tuesday. I don't know what your schedule is next Tuesday, and you probably haven't got that far out yet, but we'll talk about it. And I would like to honor you with a resolution as well. So, George, congratulations, and job well done.
Good evening, David.
Good evening. I'm David Ashby, the Executive Director for New Morning Youth and Family Services. And Wendy, you, or Mayor Mattson, or what is it about to be? I'm sorry, Mayor?
Thomas.
Thomas, okay. You mentioned all the agencies that Chief Nielsen deals with. I think it's important, or I guess I feel important, to state that it's not just that George is a participant of those. Sometimes nonprofits or any agency get members on them because they look good on the letterhead. Mm-hmm. Chief of police, sheriff, mayor, whatever the case may be. But in Chief Nielsen's case, in every board that he's served on, and my counterparts will attest to it, he is an extremely active member. He served as New Morning's president for 3 years. He was president on Marshall Foundation, I know, Boys and Girls Club. The list goes on. He's very active. And I think all of it comes down to what he's done 30 years with, and that is service to the community. George, thank you so much.
Hello, Karen.
Good evening. Karen Good, Executive Director with Marshall Foundation for Community Health. And on behalf of the nonprofit partnership, which is a collaboration of 12 nonprofits, of which I know George has been president of many of those organizations, and Marshall Foundation, we've been so privileged to have George, as Supervisor Veerkamp mentioned, a friend. He's been a friend to nonprofits, and not just a friend, and not just a board member, not just a president, but he is that quintessential person that jumps in and does everything. You would think he only works with one organization when he is working with you. But you talk to your neighbor, you talk to David Ashby or anybody else here in this room, and you'll find out he's doing the same with every single nonprofit that he works with. And that is very, very exceptional, and I am so privileged to have known you. I could get choked up, except that George has told us that he's not going away with the nonprofits. So he's still going to be there, and for that I'm eternally grateful. Thank you.
George, at this point, would you like to say a few words?
Very much. Thank you very much, Mayor Mattson, Council, all my friends and family. I do want to say a few words, but the easiest way is for me to go through my prepared statement and try to keep it together here. It's really been an extreme honor and privilege for me to serve the people of Placerville and El Dorado County alongside the fine staff of the police department, all other city departments, allied agencies, and service organizations. The time I've been able to serve this community has been both professionally rewarding and personally enriching. My most sincere thanks for this opportunity and for the support from city administrations, councils, and individuals past and present shown to the Placerville Police Department, to local law enforcement, and to me personally. It's very much recognized and appreciated. I'm extremely proud of the accomplishments of the Placerville Police Department over the years. I extend my personal thanks to all the staff, present, past, and so forth, of the police department who've provided dedicated, loyal, and professional service. I'm confident that the Placerville Police Department will continue to move forward and thrive in our tradition of being dedicated to our partnership between the community and the police in a collective effort to improve the quality of life and to promote a safer community. I look forward to new opportunities and challenges that are ahead for me and my family. I most sincerely thank my whole family, particularly my wife and sons, right here with me, for their unwavering and unending support and dedication to me in this demanding profession. I could not have done that without them. Thanks again for the opportunities and support provided to me. After almost a quarter century, I will always look fondly upon the City of Placerville and especially the Placerville Police Department as part of my extended family. So thank you and farewell, but not goodbye, because we're not going anywhere, and this is just the next chapter. I do intend to remain involved and remain in the area and give my full support to Interim Chief Mike Scott. You know, if I tried to thank everybody, it would be hard to, I would probably leave somebody out, but I do need to thank some individuals, and that is all my fellow department heads. I want to thank Steve Ewell, Dave Warren, people I've worked with for a long period of time. And especially I want to thank John Driscoll. He's just been a tremendous mentor to me. Cleve coming in under tough circumstances, and Cleve's been outstanding to work with. I want to thank him. I want to thank Steve Brown, who's in the audience, who's my mentor as a police chief. We laid the groundwork together and moved the department forward. Tim Thompson is out there, and Tim has just been my rock under tough times. And again, there's just too many people to thank, and it's been tremendous. I'll always look fondly upon it. But again, and I certainly don't want to leave out Susan Zito, our city clerk and human resources, my telephone buddy, solving problems over the telephone. But again, most of all, my family, my wife Sue, my sons Spencer and Chase. So thank you, and I really appreciate the recognition.
Let's take a 5-minute recess and let people adjourn at this point. So thank you all for coming, and happy trails, Chief.
Yeah, I was going to suggest one thing you mentioned, the public hearing for the garbage release.
Yes.
We can't do that until 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
I forgot.
They already had it.
They already had it, but
Yeah.
you can have cake right now.
Lettuce and cake.
But anyway, that's
let us eat cake.
what
It's
happened
time
is
sensitive.
they sent the public notice out. I forgot to tell them we changed our meeting to 6 o'clock. So they sent the public notice at 7 o'clock, which is fine.
That's
we
okay.
just can't
We're close.
do it till
We
7.
can just,
You move past it.
It may almost be there depending on what
Might
happens
be.
with the consent calendar.
So would we go on to, what do we have to do with adoption? We already adopted the agenda.
That doesn't matter. That's just you can reorder if you need to.
Can we?
Yeah, you can reorder.
All you need to do is know that we need to come. We can't hold this public hearing.
just say it's
until
time,
Okay.
it's time.
Because that's what the notice said.
Isn't it, what do they call it, time sensitive?
Right, time sensitive. So we'll go on to 11.1 and then go back to 10.1 if
do that.
Yeah.
that's not the intersection.
At 7, or can it
No.
go
It can go
After.
Time after.
Okay,
You just can't go before.
okay, great.
No.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break or so. All right.
Sorry, I meant to mention that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Mayor.
Yes.
On the consent calendar, I didn't make a note on that resolution. We didn't, I thought Susan was bringing the resolution, she didn't. But we'll just note that that's a change that needs to be added to that. So that's on, the.
Lead statement on 8.5.
Right, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I'm sorry, refresh my memory, what do I need to do on this?
Just state that, next item is the consent calendar.
Okay.
Before we move forward, our city manager has a statement.
Okay.
On item 8.5, and I'll
Okay.
tell you what that'll be.
All right.
Wendy, can I grab your signature on
Yes,
these two, and I'll deliver them
thank
tomorrow?
you.
I'm sorry, I should have had you sign these when you were in the office.
Didn't even think about it. I'm sorry, I was kind of.
Well, when I picked these up and I
Thank
saw
you,
this, and I went,
Susan.
uh-oh. So.
right, with that, we are back. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the special presentations tonight. All right, let's see where we are on the agenda. We are at item 7, public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda. And state law prohibits the council from acting on any items not listed on the agenda. And you have about 3 minutes. So with that, before we move on to oral communication, is there any written communication, Mr. Morris?
None tonight, thank you.
All right, thank you. So with that, is there any member wishing to address the council? Please come forward. I'd like to remind everyone to state their name for the record. Good evening.
Good evening. Evelyn Veerkamp, Placerville. At the April 30th neighborhood chat, Mayor Mattson revealed she recently had learned that, quote, one of our longtime businesses was aggressively threatened if they didn't put money in against the roundabout lawsuit of the city, end of quote. Shocked at hearing this, initially I failed to fully comprehend it. That a business owner had been pressured into supporting the roundabout lawsuit seemed beyond belief. Regardless, the fact that a business owner had been aggressively threatened cannot be ignored. 2 weeks later, after much reflection and conversation, I have decided to ask the authorities to make a formal investigation into the matter of the verbal assault or perhaps attempted extortion of one of our business owners. Nobody should be allowed to use illegal means to coerce or extort funds from any of our citizens or businesses. This is a small community. Those who are its lifeblood must be protected. Intimidation and strong-armed tactics cannot be allowed. This unfortunate situation needs immediate, though not timely, redress. While hoping the offending party proves not to have been one of the roundabout opponents, we must support a proper investigation. In the next few days, I will be contacting the police and district attorney. I am certain Mayor Mattson will cooperate fully with the investigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public wish to address us? Seeing that, we will close public comment and move on to item 8, the consent calendar. We already did that. And before we move on to adopting the consent calendar, the city manager has a statement on item 8.5. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is just in regards to, this is the item that is on your consent calendar regarding the City Hall approval of awarding a bid for the City Hall roofing project. I just wanted to note that in the resolution attached to that, it only states item 1 in your recommendation, which is approving the award of the bid for $95,300. We need to amend that resolution to add items 2 and 3, which is authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement for that, and approving a $110,300 budget appropriation for this. The $110,000 is over the $95,000 due to a 10% contingency that we add to projects. So it doesn't require you to pull this or discuss anything. Just note that the resolution will include those 2 items as well as what it currently states.
Thank you very much. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. Is there any member of the council that wishes to do so? Seeing none, is there any member of the public that wishes to discuss anything? They have any comments on anything on the consent calendar? Good evening. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening. Sue Rodman, resident of Placerville. And my question is, my understanding is that the city bought this building and then sold it to a corporation who is the actual owner.
Which item is that, Sue?
8.5.
8.5, okay.
For the roofing of the city hall.
So your question, who is the actual owner?
My understanding is that this corporation is the actual owner. The city has a lease to buy for 20 years or so, is my understanding. And since the city is leasing the building, why is the city doing a new roof? Why not the building's owner doing the roof? Most landlords are responsible for upkeep of their properties. So my question is, why is it up to the city to do the roof on the city hall if we are actually leasing it and do not own it outright?
All right. Thank you. We'll see once we close public comments if any member wishes to pull that item. Any other comment on the consent calendar? All right. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Yes, Mr. Morris.
Can we answer that question? We'd like to, just
Would
to,
that-
to clear it up. And
Is that
either
the-
Dave Warren
Great.
or our city attorney, either one can answer that.
So you can answer it without pulling the item?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's get that answered then. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
Good evening,
Mayor.
Mr. Warren.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me?
Barely. That's always a tricky microphone.
Where's your cell phone?
How's that?
That's much better. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
So, back in 2005, the city secured a capital lease, a 15-year capital lease, to construct the tenant improvements, both interior improvements and exterior, as well as site improvements. And the city purchased the property, both the land and the building, but to do the improvements, the city financed the tentative improvements. And basically the mechanism to do that is a capital lease whereby, debt is issued. The company Oryx Incorporated has a lien on the property, if you will. Correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Driscoll. But it is an arrangement where we're leasing it back from them, but we also have name on the deed. And so the city is responsible for maintaining the building. These monies, although they were set aside for other things, site improvements, improvements to sidewalks, bulb outs, those kind of things, because of we weren't able to do the complete project and there's a need for the roof replacement, management has made the recommendation to replace the roof instead. So.
City Attorney Driscoll.
I just might add to what David's saying. It's a financing mechanism, as Dave has indicated, and it was one that has been commonly used in lieu of issuing bonds, for example. It did not put the city's general fund at risk. The security, in essence, is the building. That's the financing mechanism. So what we do is we basically turned over the building to the financing agency, Oric, and we took it back under a lease.
What is their name?
Oric.
Oh, Oric. Okay.
And we took it back under a lease provision that as soon as we have paid all the payments on the lease, the building goes back into our name, into the city's name. But as I say, it was a financing mechanism that was recommended by the city's financial advisor at the time as an alternative to issuing bonds for those improvements.
Thank you for the clarification. All right. So would a member of the City Council like to make a motion on the consent calendar?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Borelli and seconded by Vice Mayor Hagan. Ms. Zito, may we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hagan?
Aye.
Mayor Mattson?
Aye.
Councilmember Patton?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Thank you. Motion carries. All right, with that, we move on to a time-sensitive public hearing, item 10.1, and it is exactly 7 o'clock, so that's wonderful. And this public hearing, we will adopt a resolution adopting the rates for collection of solid waste within the city of Placerville. And with that, Mr. Morris, would you like to introduce this topic?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This may look familiar to you. Each year we come back to the council as included in our contract with our solid waste company, as included a provision for a CPI increase and a fuel surcharge based on an index that we use for that. So this year we're bringing this back. Before we get to that actual portion of it, though, we have a presentation that our El Dorado Disposal will be making for us, and Deb Jensen is here as well as others. Jeff is here. Jeff, I'm sorry, your last name's going blank on me. I apologize. But they will be making the presentation, and then we'll have further discussion. So.
Okay. Good evening, Jeff. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and very much appreciate the opportunity to present tonight. I am Jeff England. I'm the district manager with El Dorado Disposal, and I do have Debbie Harlow, our community relations manager, and Michael Peters, who's our operations manager, with me as well tonight. So if we have any operational or service type questions that I can answer, they'll be happy to jump in as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to review our previous year, and be discussing a variety of things from performance standards, recycling, and so on. If I get this right. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay. I'd like to get it all up there and then not read verbatim if I can. Okay, terrific. In 2012, we had 2,661 residential customers in the city of Placerville. What I'm very happy to report is that the number of residents, the percentage of residents who have recycled carts in the city of Placerville is 92%. Which means that Placerville should feel very good about the way our residents have embraced recycling here in Placerville. Set-out rate varies. It's a little seasonal, but typically our set-out rate is in the mid-80s or so, but those are excellent numbers and something Placerville should feel very good about. Our green waste program grows, and we have 81% of the customers who have trash in recycle also have green waste carts. And of course, the set-out rate on green waste tends to be rather seasonal, specific to fall and things of that nature as well. On the commercial front, we had a very exciting year last year because of California Assembly Bill 341 in particular. We serviced 407 commercial customers in Placerville. Of those, 113 fall into the parameters for AB 341 compliance, which is 4 yards of trash per week generated, or 4 units or more in a multifamily complex. We have reached out to every one of the commercial customers in Placerville, and we have it whittled down to 17 left in order to be compliant with AB 341. And by compliance, what I mean is essentially having a recycle program. The majority of the 17 who are left are either restaurants or multifamilies, but we are very confident that we'll be able to bring those into the fold in the next year and get 100% compliance in Placerville with AB 341 and the commercial recycling program. Oh, yes, Carson Ridge Apartments. We just did an award ceremony with California Recycle. Cal Recycle now is the arm of the state of California that enforces recycling compliance, and they are very happy with Placerville's compliance, I'm happy to say, and progress. And we recently did a very nice award ceremony for Marshall Hospital on the commercial side, and the Carson Ridge Apartments as well. Very nice work out there. We have 2 programs specifically designed to enhance our customer service. The first is a secret shopper program for our customer service representatives. We've got an on-site, as it were, our office has on-site customer service reps. We don't outsource that, send it to Sacramento or the Bay Area. We've got folks who live and work right here who take the calls from folks that come in. We have a secret shopper program where we have people who call and essentially pretend to be customers and rather test our CSRs that they're following script, as it were, and meeting all the needs of the customers who call in. They have a 100% possible score that they're able to get for that, and I'm happy to report that we continue to make progress on that front. We were at a 90% last year. Our average was 92.5% this year, and I very much like our customer service team and like to think that we consistently provide an enjoyable experience for people who call in with various needs. We also have a commercial program. When a new commercial customer starts up, after 90 days, they get a call or a survey with a series of questions, and that they're able to rate on a 1 to 10 scale relative to their service. Timeliness of the containers being provided, all things from the appearance of the container, follow-up, billing, things of that nature, and that helps keep us in line, as it were, specific to our commercial customers. We had another very enjoyable year working with the community, with the service groups and the various organizations in town. Rather than read the list of the various organizations that we do teamwork with, whether it's monetarily providing services or volunteering actively with those groups. As I know, many of you know, our community relations manager, Debbie Harlow, is actually on several boards and actively out there, as we like to say, participating with the service groups. But I would like to point out three that we really just joined forces with this last year. New Morning Youth and Services. The Mother Teresa program, we're happy to start helping more this last year. And we've been very involved with the Hangtown Haven project and very much enjoyed team working with the city to get that area cleaned up a couple of different times and then help maintain it by getting it set up for trash out there. And we're very happy to support that, I think, very worthwhile project. I'm sorry you can't see that better. Those are the diversion numbers specific for this year. And what I'd like to point out about our diversion totals, and what diversion speaks to, is the volume of material that is not going to landfill and being trashed, but that is actually being converted into recycled material. We get often asked what happens to the bottles and plastics and things of that nature, and I do want to assure everyone that those items are sorted at our transfer station, and then they typically end up being shipped to Oakland and overseas for recycle. But this encompasses all things from construction, demolition material, green waste, as well as the recycling that we pick up. So when I refer to that 92% participation rate specific to the residential folks, it really matters with regard to meeting our diversion requirements from the state. And as I'll discuss later, our go-forward programs for 2013 are very much geared towards increasing recycle diversion because, as many of you know, the state of California is seriously contemplating raising the bar relative to diversion requirements. Again, they're discussing by 2020 a 75% diversion requirement for that, and that will require us team working very much to meet those goals. What I'd like to say, though, we actually had a slight decrease in the diversion percentage in this last year from the year prior. But what we also had was a net drop in overall material of 549 tons. And really what that speaks to, again, is the difficult economy, again, last year, and overall consumption being reduced, as well as a lack of building that's been going on in particular. Building drives an awful lot of diversion because it's a weight-based metric. And so construction materials really matter relative to meeting those numbers. And we are seeing very encouraging signs this year, though, with regard to building permits and the volume of work that we're getting from all things remodels to new starts with buildings, both residential, not so much commercial yet, but we're seeing some very encouraging signs on that front. And our expectation is that with AB 341 compliance and those things coming along, that we will get back to increasing our diversion numbers this next year. Okay, we have a number of performance standards that are written into the contract that are required in order for us to get our rate increases each year, and I'd like to touch on those. We have first what we call a missed pickup. Missed pickups are when we don't pick up your trash or we don't get your recycle stuff picked up. The qualifier on that is, and let me say, what our drivers are instructed to do when they have what we call a not out, somebody who hasn't placed their carts out, is to call in or identify in writing, and then that goes to our dispatcher when somebody doesn't have their material out. This way we're able to know that if somebody calls in and says, hey, I didn't put my stuff out, sometimes they're just late getting it out, that we do or don't have a performance issue with our driver. So it's very helpful that way. It also enables being able to educate the customers about getting their carts out the night before. It's interesting how some folks rather set their clocks by when our trash truck shows up at their house in the morning, and if I have a swing driver or something like that on the route and they show up later, we'll get a call, hey, you didn't come and pick us up. Or if he gets there earlier, it can really mess folks up. And so for that reason, we have the drivers let us know if somebody's not out, and then that helps us have a better conversation with the customer if they call and say that you didn't get us. What I'd like to say about that, and so when we refer to a missed pickup, that's one that the driver failed to notify us that the cart wasn't out. And so of those situations, we had 81 of them last year. Our goal is not to exceed 5 in 1,000. And with the number of customers that we have, if you do both trash and the recycle and green waste, we're looking at around 20,000 ballpark services a month there. So we don't think that that's too bad of a number, but again, we work very hard with the drivers to make sure they're getting everybody. And then again, educating and working with the customers if they perceive an issue with our service on pickups. In our customer service department, we have a requirement for folks not to have an average wait time beyond 75 seconds. We have a system that's able to track that. We actually got a new phone system last year, and it's exciting. It's really helping us track those metrics better. And our average wait time for customers in Placerville calling in last year was 41 seconds. Complaint resolution. Our goal is to correct 995 out of every 1,000 calls that we get that are complaint in nature. And we are able to resolve complaints typically same day or next day. Frequently it's by having the driver go back and take care of a situation. It may be my friend Michael here taking a pickup truck or on his way home cleaning up or getting somebody's trash dumped or something of that nature. It may be an issue related to billing or something of that nature as well. And we like to think that when somebody calls in that we don't task people who call in with an issue, that we're able to resolve it for them at that time or very quickly after. And so we're able to report on that front that we had 2 complaints that we do not consider resolved. And one was specific to repetitive missed pickups in a tricky cart location, and the other had to do with the billing issue that frankly went on longer than it should. Another component in our performance metric is litter complaint resolution. Again, we seek to resolve 995 of every 1,000 of those, that we get that taken care of within 48 hours. Every one of our trucks has a whisk broom and a dustpan on it so that the driver can get out. And we know that some folks take very seriously a little debris left on the ground after we dump out there. And I will tell you that when it's windy, it's a challenge. But these are the marching orders that we've given our drivers, and we think that we've coached them pretty effectively on getting out of the truck and getting out there and getting that cleanup because we don't like those calls when people say, hey, you left a mess behind. And so again, whether it's Michael following up with the pickup truck to get it taken care of, or we find more effectively making the driver go back and do it, darned if that doesn't seem to condition them pretty well. We think that we're doing pretty well at getting those resolved also. The last requirement is our reporting to the city, which primarily encompasses our diversion reporting, and I'm happy to report that we've been timely with all our reports to the city of Placerville this year. The next thing that I'd like to speak to, and this is what I think is kind of fun for us, is taking a look at our programs from 2012 and then also talking about what we'd like to do going forward for 2013. In 2012, we implemented a curbside battery pickup. Folks are able to call us and then get a gallon plastic container which they can, over time, fill up with household batteries. And we've eliminated, or at least set up a program to help eliminate those batteries from going into landfill and the trash. And we're happy to report that we did pick up 21 full containers of batteries this last year. We expect that number to grow, as it takes a while for folks to, fill up a container full of batteries, and it's a new program. So we expect to see more of those this next year. And then we also have an oil container pickup program. And there are people in Placerville and other places that still change their own oil, and so we're happy to assist that, and it's very much the same mechanism. Folks are able to call in, say, hey, I've got oil jugs out here I'd like you to pick up. We've got compartments that have been built onto the side of the trucks so that the drivers are able to pick up the oil jugs that are full, put them onto the rack on the truck, and then take it to the transfer station. And then we also leave an equal number of containers there so that they can use it again without having to call in. And so we were able to pick up 28 oil containers this last year, and we'd like to see that number grow also. Our outreach programs, which are really about encouraging recycling for the most part and educating kids a lot. We did school visits last year, and then we also have a program for tours of the transfer station, and so we have all things from Girl Scouts to school groups that do field trips that come through, and they're able to go out and see the sort lines and how we sort the recycle from the trash and see how things work out there. We're also developing a composting program. We're putting a garden behind the office out there, and we're looking to have an on-site composting issue, so that part of the MRF tour for the kids is going to be something like Worms in Action. I think that it's going to be a real fun thing. We were out at the Ag Fair today doing demonstrations on composting and worms and things of that nature for the kids that were out there, and I understand it went very well. Our community cleanups in 2012, as you know, we do 2 a year, where we set the big bins out and encourage the residents to clean out their garages, clean out their attics, and bring their stuff. We brought in 583 over tons of trash and over 7 tons of yard waste this last year. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to advertise that our spring community cleanup in Placerville is June 15th this year, and certainly encourage folks to take advantage of that opportunity and get that old stuff out and get it dumped. We were also able to introduce in this last year a fluorescent light drop-off at both our buyback center and at the MRF. People are able to do that. We've got the special boxes that it needs, and we can get those shipped out, so folks are able to bring in their fluorescent tubes, and we can take care of that for them now. All right. 2013. What we'd like to do, of course, is get 100% compliance on AB 341. That's the big rock, really, for us for this next year, is to keep the momentum that we have there and get the rest of those stragglers taken care of. The other that I think represents a real opportunity for us, though, is to identify and capture material that we don't haul. A lot of the bigger stores, of course, will self-haul all things from their shrink wrap, cardboard, things of that nature, and frequently that material and those weights are missed relative to being compiled for the diversion data, because it's very much an in-house program. So what we want to be able to do is pilot a program of identifying who those folks are, outreach to them, find the right folks, and then set up a program on a quarterly basis where we would contact them, and then we would get that information from them on the amount of cardboard that they shipped out. We can do the conversions to weight and things of that nature if we can get the volume from them, so that can be incorporated into our diversion reporting and help us with those numbers too. So that is one of our programs that we'd like to do this next year. One of the other things that we're looking forward to do is looking to enhance the opportunity to recycle right here on Main Street. As you know, you've got some very quaint trash cans that are out there, and we pick up 5 days a week out there picking up in the mornings. You don't see us on Main Street because we're out there about 4 o'clock in the morning before anybody else is out there. But We think that there's a great opportunity, and this is something that Cleve is very excited about too. We've had some fun discussions about the different types of carts that we may be able to utilize, and also find the right ones that will keep the spirit and the aesthetic quality that you're looking for. If that's, it's possible. You laugh. But we think that we can find dual-use recycle carts, that are split, that you're able to get trash on one side, recycle on another with separate containers, so that people, and then make it easy for people to identify which is which, so that we can capture more of the bottles and the plastics and things of that nature, and then get the trash on the other side. So that's one of the other things that we're looking forward to trying to pull off this next year. Okay. With that, and that isn't very visible either. I'm sorry. I'd like to talk about the rates for this next year. As Cleve indicated, the Consumer Price Index is the metric that we utilize for identifying what our rate increase percentage is going to be. And in Placerville, we also factor in fuel surcharge metric. I'm happy to report for you folks that we catch a break this year. Fuel prices actually went down, believe it or not, this last year, and so it actually drove the CPI down from a 2.0 percentage to a 2.14 percentage increase, which is across the board for the rates. Last year, because of AB 341, what we have the ability to do, or I should say you folks have the ability to do, is to assign on rather a ratio basis how much of the percentage goes towards commercial or recycle. And last year, because of AB 341, a little more went to the commercial side. This year, what we've recommended is an across the board. And what I would like to say that what that percentage works out to practically for folks, if you're in a 32-gallon cart, the smallest size trash cart that we have, it's a 41 cent per month or 82 cent billing, because we bill bi-monthly, increase is what you're looking at. The 64-gallon cart is a 63 cent per month increase. The 96-gallon works out to 76 cents per month increase, and we're also recommending that we hold the senior rate for 32 gallons flat, which we've done for several years, and we would like to do again this year, so that there's no impact on any seniors who are in the smallest size cart. I also have the roll-off and the commercial rate increases. If you're in a 6-yard commercial bin, which folks frequently use at their homes for clean-outs or if they're moving and things of that nature, you're looking at a $3.06 increase in order to rent a 6-yard cart. And if anyone has any questions or wants any other information specific to the changes with regard to the commercial, I'm more than happy to get into any of the details on any of the particular sizes or things of that nature as well. They vary obviously, relative to the size. Our rates, especially on the residential side, are very much geared towards encouraging folks into the smaller size carts. One of the reasons for the success that we've had with AB 341 is that because we do not charge specifically for recycle, what we're able to do when we dumpster dive, quite literally, and that's what my friend Debbie does, is gets out there and dumpster dives. And by doing that, we identify what folks are throwing away that can be recycled. And when you're able to do that, we're able to reduce their trash service. And because they're billed specifically for the trash, we literally are able to reduce their trash service, reduce their cost while we're simultaneously doing the right thing and encouraging the recycling. So this is really the way our rates are structured and set up. And we find that it works. You get a lot of resistance sometimes from businesses not wanting to change, or the perception that recycling is going to add to their workload. And when we are able to say, look, if we can get one haul per week, or we can get you into a smaller size bin, here's what the net savings are going to be, they tend to look at it differently. And so that's where a lot of the success in our commercial recycling compliance has come from. I'm now happy to field any questions that anyone has, and I also actively encourage anyone to call our office at any time. Again, my name's Jeff England, and you're more than welcome to ask for me about anything. And we also are happy to get out and speak to the public and to groups or anything of that nature as well. So I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. England. Very, very complete, thorough presentation. Really appreciate it. Is there any member of the council that has any questions for Jeff? Yes, Councilmember Patton.
Thank you. Back to the oil recycling and the battery containers, is
Yes.
that included in part in your regular service, or is that an additional charge?
There's no charge for that.
So you just call up?
It's a free program. There isn't any incremental charge or anything of that nature. Folks simply need to call and say, I'd like to get a battery container, or I'd like to get oil jugs, and then we're happy to follow through and do that for them.
Perfect. And then I wanted to just briefly touch on the Main Street trash cans.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were talking about, I'm assuming, the trash cans on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Has there, and a redesign of those?
Well, what we're looking at is, because you've got the containers that are there, and then the container that drops down into it. So that the container that drops down into it is really the opportunity to find a container that's split, that's got two openings on the top. That would drop down into that. I know that the Rotary's done a great job of painting and cleaning up the outsides of the containers that are out there. But we're also talking about because you've got to let folks know, hey, you can recycle here, and you've got to make it very clear for them, which hole the recycle goes into and the trash there. So Cleve and Debbie and I have discussed getting the City of Placerville logo potentially on the trash carts, and how we might do that, as well as the recycling logo on there too. Because it also obviously increases awareness that that you folks are encouraging recycling, and then would make it that much easier for folks to be able to do that. So that's really what we're contemplating there.
Has there been any discussion with the Downtown Association on those trash cans specifically?
Not yet. We're just starting this. This is coming up for this next year, and we're going to look at all options. I realize, or I believe, I know you've been involved with this more than I have, but our downtown plan shows those being replaced and looking at new designed trash cans, right? So we're going to look at all options that we have this coming year and see what could be done to develop that. So.
And only one other thing, it has to do, again, with downtown and specifically the Center Street Garage and the need for recycling in those big commercial bin areas. Is that, we have them now?
They're there.
Okay. That was all. Thank
you.
All
right. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Carol. Councilmember Borelli.
Yes, I would like to know, several years ago, I was at a meeting, and the city of Roseville had just started a battery pickup program, and I think, I'm not real sure because it's been a long time, but they had containers placed in different areas where people could bring their little small batteries. And is that one of the things that's being considered for like putting a place like in out where you're talking about out? Is it in City Hall parking lot or?
We're always open to a better way to make it more convenient for folks to recycle. The struggle with that has been getting business owners to want to play along, to set out the containers, even when you've thought that you've had a mechanism by saying, hey, it'll encourage folks to come back and buy batteries from you if you have a system for recycling there. They just don't want to mess with it. That's been the pattern with trying to get businesses to really actively participate in those types of programs. Same with the fluorescents, actually.
Really?
Yes, it's something they just don't want to deal with, and it's been tried. It's something certainly that we would be open to doing the outreach and seeing if we can find folks, who would like to do that. But the history of that really has been that it's been very difficult to get businesses to want to participate in those types of programs, and that's why it's rather evolved to the point that it has, where it's easier to approach it on frankly, a curbside basis. And we also think that that's a very convenient way for the residential customers to be able to get their batteries out of the house, out of the trash, and for us to capture it so that it can be recycled.
What if you had, because I understand the county has, it's inside their building, and again, I could be wrong, and I'm sorry ahead of time if I am.
That's
But
okay.
I think they have a container that people can, like, come to work and they can bring, and I'm just wondering if something like that could be done, like, here or.
Oh, it certainly could. You know, one of the things that I meant to mention with our 2013 program, and frankly we're doing it with all the jurisdictions, is looking at the administrative components with the county, Placerville, et cetera, and ensuring that in-house, as it were, that we're recycling to the extent we can. A lot of times, and it's the same with businesses, and it'll be true with AB 341, you have to follow up. You know, it's one thing to get the you know, the blue tubs and those things out there, and to say, hey, this, and this, you know, can be recycled. But folks get out of the habit rather easily, or turnover. You know, really requires that you go back and touch them again. One of the things that we've done to help ensure AB 341 remain compliant, that we didn't just, you know, take a cart to a restaurant and then say, okay, good luck with that, is that we've taken, Debbie partnered last year with a gal in our office who has been with the company for a very long time, almost as long as Debbie. And she and the two of them teamworked the AB 341 program last year. Well, we've just shifted her to a commercial coordinator position. And one of the reasons for doing that is knowing that we have to circle back with every one of those commercial customers and ensure that they didn't forget how to recycle, or that with turnover that they just haven't gotten into bad habits, you know, and throwing things away that can be recycled. So that's how we intend to help do that with the customers, and we also intend to do the same thing, you know, with the city and other folks, so that, you know, because you just have to remind people.
Thank you. Thank you. Vice Mayor Hagan, any questions?
None.
Councilmember Wilkins? No. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. England.
My pleasure.
And
Wendy,
yes.
before he leaves, I just have one question.
Yes.
Do you have smaller carts than those big giant 64-gallon ones for my recycling and my yard waste? Because I never generate enough stuff to fill those, and they're very cumbersome.
Can I bring mine over?
No.
Yeah,
Because I have this small trash one, and that's fine, but those big giant ones are, and I can't believe I'm the only one that has that complaint.
That's okay. You know what? I don't hear that very often, and we don't right now provide the smaller size cart for either green waste or recycling, but we're open to anything.
Because you know what happens is I commingle my stuff just to
Oh.
fill up one trash can.
Okay.
I'm just telling you.
Okay, so you've got the smallest size trash and then a 64 for the recycle? And the
for-
recycle's not capturing
I
everything?
barely ever take it out.
Okay, okay, then I'm sorry, I'm not understanding why you're commingling if the recycle's larger than you need.
Because I just use the little one.
Okay.
I don't generate.
So you're just using the one?
I just use one.
Okay, I got you,
So,
I got you.
anyways,
Okay, so
just
you're
a
not
thought.
using it.
Takes up a lot of room.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know, Placerville really is, by far of the jurisdictions that we deal with, space is really the final frontier when it comes to homes and carts. That was a lot of what we heard when we did the initial cart rollout a couple of years ago, and we got carts back from folks who said, I just don't have room for it. So actually, that's an idea I'll be happy to make note of and explore.
Good idea. Thank
Okay.
you very much, Mr. England.
quite
Appreciate you
welcome.
being here.
My pleasure.
And with that, I'd like to open the public hearing on item 10.1. Would any member of the public wish to comment at this hearing? Please come forward and state your name for the record. Good evening.
Good evening. Robin Roars, the Seasons Bed and Breakfast. And maybe Jeff remembers me? Robin Roars, Seasons Bed and Breakfast.
Oh, yes, I do. Sorry, took me a minute. I apologize, I do.
I think it's the duty of the city council to either go through some sort of small motions, maybe a survey, to find out how many people have had unresolved issues with their company, and how many frustrated people had to go to court to find a solution to their problem. I, for one, have been stonewalled for over a year, and if any one of you had happened to what happened to me, you would not grant them any increase at all until you knew that the citizens were being treated fairly and in a timely manner. I had police reports, I had witnesses, I had documentation and photography. Their truck comes around the corner on Bedford, and apparently, I had an eyewitness, the big green waste fell off and wound by my front door. No problem, but, you know, I made some calls and it was resolved. The second time it happened, this large can with the big wheels landed on top of my BMW hood. Photographed it. We identified by the number, with their help, where it belonged. They went over there and they said, oh yeah, our can was picked up. Back at office, oh, it wasn't logged in. I said, I know why. It's on top of my car. It fell off your truck. So I have had a dented hood, which I went to their place for inspection to figure out how much it would cost to repair, and BMW. It has to have a hood replaced with a no guarantee of a matched paint job. And I'm like, you know, this is really a drag. I'm into recycling. I could just see this hood in a landfill, a perfectly good hood, but has a bunch of dents and scrapes in it. So I said to them, you know, my deductible's $500. Why not $500 off of my bill or in ahead of my bill? And that's when conversations stopped. And the only recourse is to go to court. So email stopped, conversations stopped, and I'm like disappeared. I'd like to know how many citizens are in my same boat, just sort of disappeared off the radar, and they want a rate increase. I had no scratches or dents on my BMW car, okay? So I think the city council should do some due diligence in this. Perhaps Jeff now remembers me fully. The phone calls after phone calls after phone calls, and talking to other people who said, I had to go to court. Well, how many court cases? I didn't see anything up there talking about how many court cases are resolved or unresolved. And I think it only fair that the city council should ask them, what did they plan to do with somebody like me? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Sue Rodman. Placerville residents. I think one of the things that needs to happen is that El Dorado Disposal needs to work with the city for responsibility to ensure that their garbage trucks are not damaging the city streets. When I read the base and asphalt depths for Diana Street or Diana Court, whichever it is, I can tell you why there are problems there. The original problem goes to the city for allowing a developer to build a residential street at a driveway standards for base and asphalt. And then the city has not warned El Dorado Disposal about driving trucks that are too heavy on those streets, and failed to set any reasonable load limits and truck sizes for the city streets. Now, how do I know this? John Driscoll knows how I know this. Because El Dorado Disposal heavy trucks severely damaged my driveway, which is built to accepted driveway standards. They happen to be exactly the same as Diana Street's. And I ended up having to go to small claims court to get them to pay half of the repair costs. But I'd like to know how many other streets have the same construction that's giving us the same kind of problems, and how much will the city end up having to spend to reconstruct those streets because of the damage from too heavy El Dorado Disposal trucks. The city and El Dorado Disposal really need to coordinate so we reduce the damage to city streets. The city, I don't think, has the finances to go reconstruct all our streets that may not be built up to the standards to handle 24 tons and 32-ton trucks. Those are very heavy trucks. And if your streets are not built up to standards to handle it, you will get this alligator cracking. You will get sinking in. I could show you the pictures from my driveway.
Thank you. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, Michael Drobish, Placerville resident. planning commissioner, so thank you, City Council, again. But when I'm here, I'm always speaking as a citizen. So, just a question on what are the options available during the fall months when the leaves far out exceed the 2-week pickup for green waste? Is there a bulk pickup outside of that, or is there an additional charge for a second green waste can for just a few months? That's always my problem. I always have way too many leaves for a 2-week pickup. And for the recycling too, I just gave them back the can because the thing is huge and almost nothing goes in it. So I just needed the yard space back. I don't know if they could put some different colored lids on the smaller cans, you know, put those yellow lids on those small cans, and I might take one back then at that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Good evening again.
I'm here with good news instead of bad news. I fully hear what's come before me, and I recognize those as serious issues. However, I have no issues. I would like to say, in answer to Councillor Borelli, that the battery pickup works perfectly well. I believe it was at one of these meetings when El Dorado Disposal, whatever you're called, gave their annual report. They told us about the battery pickup program. I called their offices with the next roundabout. With the next time they came around, they delivered one of their containers to me, and I still haven't filled it. It'll be probably a couple years, but it does work. I would like to thank them for their much improved telephone service. The first few years, or my first few experiences 10 years or so ago calling them, I nearly pulled my hair out. And I told them that regularly. I'm sure it had nothing to do with me. I'm sure that it was because they were working on their telephone service, but it works very well now. And I would also say that all of their personnel have always been incredibly courteous, polite, and whatnot. I think it must be a dirty, thankless job, and their drivers are wonderful, as all of their staff have always been in my experience.
Good. Thank you. Any other member of the public? Would El Dorado Disposal wish to make any other additional comments? No. All right. Thank you very much. With that, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for further discussion. Vice Mayor Hagan.
I just, I want to thank El Dorado Disposal and its Waste Connections, which I think we've had the contract with you now for about 7 years or 6 years. Before that, when Evelyn was talking, it was Waste Management, which is a totally different company, and their customer service base was out of Rancho Cordova, and most of them couldn't spell Placerville, let alone find it. But I find their service to be excellent. I have both commercial and residential, and I hauled 2 large containers up this evening before this meeting because I wasn't sure I was going to be out of here before 7 a.m. But with that, and they were pretty full because we had some in-laws moving out and moving on over to Gold Country. But it's to me, this is the way to handle your rate increases. It's done in a little bit each time. We got into substantial trouble as a city council in the past by not taking rate increases for water. And we got, all of a sudden we had a 16% rate increase or 27% or 82% sewer rate increase when we got these huge bills. And so when I look at this and see 2% and a minus 0.06% for fuel, I look at it and say, this is a bargain. I don't have to drive over to the disposal site. I don't have to haul it to my office. If I have extra, I can. We do participate in both the recycle program at my office building as well as the regular dumpsters, and I could probably switch to a lower for the regular trash now. But I consider it a bargain, and I really appreciate the service that they do in the community. The community cleanup is one day. I know they provide a dumpster for New Morning Youth and Family Services without charge, as community service for the shelter for youth. And they do a number of other things in the community, and I really appreciate their community involvement. It takes me back to the days when it was the local guys that owned the company, El Dorado Disposal. I'm sure there are issues with individuals. I'm sure their trucks, again, are big. I know that cul-de-sacs have a different design than the others, and I also know they responded with smaller trucks when it was brought to their attention that they had a problem on a particular street. And I'm sorry you had to replace your driveway, Susan, but I know that can happen not only with trash trucks, but with concrete delivery or bricks or anything else that comes in. So anyway, I think this is a prudent way to handle rate increases, and I appreciate their reporting and disclosure. And I believe their numbers as far as disclosure.
Any other council comments?
I just want to talk about the battery thing again. I was trying to find like a central location, and because we can't all go up to Evelyn's house. Home Depot does collect them? Okay. Well, maybe we ought to be notified where they are, because I'm sitting in my kitchen with a whole bag of batteries that I'm looking for a place to take them, so.
We have the bin and administration on the 4th floor of City Hall.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
You need to put the word out.
In the Chamber of Commerce.
I can what? Well,
I just heard Chamber of Commerce also has one, so
okay.
that's good to know.
All right, good to know. We need to maybe have that.
Councilmember Patton, any comment?
My only comment is that the times that I've had, I'm just going to reiterate what Councilmember Hagan say, is that I have had excellent service, and they actually use a very small truck on my very small street that I live on because they just couldn't get the big truck in there. So if I could just get a littler trash can, I would be really happy. But then they could get a littler truck. But anyways, I just wanted to say, I remember when it was not mandatory trash service. I remember that. And I remember looking at a lot more litter and trash than we have today. And I appreciate the service that they have brought to our community. And I also agree with Councilmember Hagan about the incremental, the very small incremental increases rather than looking at a substantial 30, 40, 50% increase when, and then if you can even get somebody to come in and do the service. Because we are a small jurisdiction, and I don't know that it always pencils out. And I know that they have always helped. You mean, you look at the litany of community activism that they've done, you know, be backing up to George. Who can ever follow George? And then we get you guys in here, and it's like, good grief. This town is just filled with service-oriented individuals and companies, and I appreciate their support of various things that I've been involved in. The flower baskets come to mind because they were a huge supporter at one of our events. So I'm all for the very small incremental increase that they're asking for.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilkins. Okay. Just one brief comment. I've also had experience with the company on multiple levels, and I've always found just that they're excellent customer service from the people you call to the billing department to the community partners and the way you interface with our community. I found you to be responsive to issues, and you are, as I have to reiterate what's been said, excellent community partners. Can't thank you enough for your help with Hangtown Haven. That has been such a blessing to our community, really helping clean up the trash of that part of town. Really appreciate that. And I think it's important to realize that this rate increase is built into the ordinance that requiring mandatory garbage service, and once again, it just makes sense to do small increments. And I have no doubt that with your excellent customer service that you will be able to continue to resolve these issues that we heard tonight. And I have full faith in your ability to do that. And I thank you for that. So with that, do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Braley, seconded by Vice Mayor Hagan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much for being here and for your presentation. Appreciate it. And with that, we move on to discussion action items. 11.1, adopt a resolution authorizing police command staff reorganization and reinstatement of the 4th police sergeant position. Chief Nielsen, you are not done yet.
Not done yet.
We're going to work you till you're done.
No farewell yet.
That's right.
Thank you. And actually, speaking of that, this item comes before you in that context of moving forward, transition, and so forth. This item is the item we discussed last Thursday evening at the budget workshop. And the reason it is brought forward tonight is that this be implemented prior to July 1st, prior to the adoption of our next budget, and that this can be implemented, and it's recommended that it is implemented going forward from tonight. And the purpose behind that is, again, with my pending retirement at the end of this week, the opportunity exists for the structure of the police department to be reorganized to reflect the staffing that will exist and the opportunities to put that staff to best use to have the most resources out in the field addressing our public safety needs. And so just to briefly review that recommendation again, what we are recommending is that the organization of the police department be reflected as such that there be a chief of police, a police lieutenant, that would be the command staff or management of the police department, 4 sergeants or supervisors, and 11 officers. Of those officers, the 4 sergeants and the 9 of the officers would be our patrol officers. 2 of the officers would be patrol officers assigned to cover shifts to help in covering for vacations, illness, injury, so forth. Those things that seem to plague our staffing and our ability to put people out in the street, and in particular our overtime to do our best to perhaps reduce overtime, to have a best management of our overtime as possible, and then also to have 1 detective position. As it is currently, we've been basically in crisis management for 3 or 4 years, dealing with the economic crisis and distress that we've had, and so we've utilized collateral assignments. Presently, for example, our lieutenant is our detective. And we've used these collateral assignments. So what will be reflected going forward is the police chief again, the lieutenant would be the operations commander and continue to manage support service functions. The 4 sergeants would take on additional administrative assignments, and between the 4th sergeant position and the lieutenant, we would absorb all administrative assignments. Again, currently we've been operating again as we have managed our budget and made various cuts and so forth, we've been operating with 3 sergeants in a modified and creative deployment schedule. And so that's allowed us to staff our shifts. But again, with my retirement, this is the opportunity to make some necessary changes, make those changes now, and implement this going forward. With that, I would answer any questions. Again, one last thing, the cost, it's anticipated that all costs will be covered with funding through existing vacancies for the remainder of this fiscal year. So we're projecting and anticipating it to be cost neutral, no change in our budget. We're not asking for additional resources. This can be managed within our existing budget and then is part of the plan for the proposed budget that will be brought to you in meetings to come forward.
So
with that, I will
a
answer
more
any
effective
questions.
structure with no budget impact.
Correct.
What could be better? Okay, thank you. Any questions from council for Chief Nielsen? No? All right. At this point in time, I'd like to open it up for public comment on 11.1. Any member of the public wishes to address this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council for further discussion and action.
I just want to make a motion to
Go
adopt
for
a
it. Go.
resolution authorizing the reorganization and the reinstating of the sergeant, of the 4th sergeant.
Second.
This moved by Councilmember Patton, seconded by Councilmember Borelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
We thank you very much. This is our effort to make this transition very smooth and basically seamless for the public and the council. Thank you.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, we move on to item 11.2, review information from the April 30th, 2013 neighborhood chat regarding the Clay Street Bridge and Cedar Ravine Main Street intersection improvements, and direct staff to proceed with a design workshop. And with that, Mr. Morris, I'll have you introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have a pretty extensive report that is here. I do not plan to go through that in detail.
Thank you.
But I wanted, I wanted to provide that information to you, and also hopefully the public has had a chance to get that. If they don't, I'll be happy to provide that to them, to anyone that would like to see it. But what I wanted to focus on a little bit was just talk about the results of the neighborhood chat, and not to hold anything back. There was a lot of opposition to probably the key to the neighborhood chat was the roundabout, or that was brought up, and there was a lot of opposition to that, and we recognize that. But bottom line at the end, and I want to give credit, I think it was David Price who actually suggested this, suggested that we do workshops to further study all options for the intersection. And so I want to apologize. I understand in talking to a couple of people that that was not, my recommendation was not interpreted that way, even though that was what is intended, was that we proceed with those workshops to fully study all the alternatives. And my intention would be to perhaps take one alternative at a time and have a workshop just on that, so that we can look at all the pros and cons, all the options associated with that, and how it works. And we would consider all of those equally through those workshops, and get input from the public regarding the pros and cons of those. And also we can have our experts there to talk about the technical aspects of each one of those, and give the opportunity for the public to look at those and how they would operate. My idea is that we could look at the simulations of how the intersection works under each of the different scenarios, so that we can look at the effect of that on some of the areas that I have a concern with. For example, the Main Street and Bedford intersection that was brought up, we need to study that further, and the Pacific Street and Cedar Ravine intersection. Those are two areas where we need to look at things further. And there's some other things that we can do, I think, to provide information and look at these options and get additional input from the public. I want to clarify and stress that it was not my intention in here to say that we were moving forward with the EIR at this time. We are not. All we were doing is these workshops to study these different options, and then we will come back at that point with options for the council to move forward if it is their desire at that time. It's my estimate that it'll take somewhere around 6 months to get through these workshops, maybe less, I don't know, but estimate around 6 months to get through these. So with that, like I say, there's a lot of information in the report. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Nate Stong, our city engineer, is also here in case there are questions that relating to the funding that you might have that I can help answer. And I'll be happy to go through that. But with that, I'd like to give it back to council for their discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I'll actually start off with a question. Can you briefly describe how you envision these workshops? Do you see them like neighborhood chats on each of the different options, or how do you envision that?
No, what I envision is more the way we did the
Island annexation.
Island annexation. Thank you. I was trying to get that word out. The island annexation workshops, where we had individual booths set up. The difference would be that I envision us only having one option set up for each workshop. So a four-way stop, for example, maybe one option. And we would set that up. We would have our experts here. We would have all the information related to that, the pros and cons of that. And we would have that set up, but rather than having a group discussion, we would be set up for, say, 2 hours, and allow the public to come in anytime during that 2 hours to look at that and give their information. We would provide information to them, and we would gain input back from them regarding the pros and cons of those intersections. So that's the way I envision that it could be done. Rather than have a large group of people sitting for 2 hours looking at this, I think it could be explained much better that way, and get their input, individual input from each person, hopefully in a better manner that way.
All right. Thank you. At this point, council questions, and let's start with you, Councilmember Wilkins.
So we were pretty much heavily focused on the intersection, and so when we're doing the workshops, is this on?
It doesn't sound like it.
I can't hear myself. Okay. Are we going to be in the workshops, are we going to have alternatives for the bridge too presented? Yes. And then also with the intersection?
Yes, we will look at all the alternatives, both for the bridge, whether or not we do the realignment, the trail, the parking. We will bring all of those things back for review and see how we can, you know, get input on those and see what is the best alternative. So, yes.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Hagan, any questions? No? Councilmember Borelli?
No.
Councilmember Patton?
So I'm a little unclear. You're going to do, or what you see as a design workshop, and you're going to segment the project into the bridge as one project, the alignment or realignment as a project, the intersection as a project, each one and each design of those elements being a separate workshop?
Well, let me put it to you this way. If we do the realignment, that brings in the intersection automatically. So I don't think we need to have a separate discussion on the alignment necessarily.
Right.
We would have a discussion on the alignment, which would then go into the alternatives for the intersection. But I do think that we can have some, possibly, I don't know if it'll take a full workshop, but some additional discussion on the improvements to the bridge. There are some options there that we can discuss. It was brought up, could the improvements simply include just widening rather than building a brand new bridge? And so we can consider that. There was discussion about, it was proposed at the meeting that we may need to, if we put everything onto that bridge, it would be approximately 42 feet. That's a fairly large structure. There was discussion, could we build just a simple 2-lane bridge for the vehicles and then perhaps have a separate bike pedestrian bridge that may work. I don't know. We would need to explore the funding on that. I'm not sure how that would work with the HBP funding, so we'd have to explore that. Those are the kind of things we could look at. We could also look at, we've talked to our consultant a little bit about widening the bridge. Could that be done? It could be done. We don't know how feasible and how all the specifics of that, but it could be done. So we want to look at that as an option. So I see the bridge being one thing that we would probably spend a night on. Looking at all those alternatives and getting input from the public, providing the pros and cons of widening as opposed to replacing, a narrower bridge with a separate bike pedestrian bridge to look at that alternative. So there's a number of things that we can look at there. I don't think that, when I say looking at each of the alternatives separately, I would see the bridge as one. The parking not necessarily a separate meeting. That could be incorporated with each of the alternatives for the intersection because those could affect parking differently. So I think that could be a component that could be part of the intersection alternatives.
So would then there be a priority, obviously if there's no realignment, then there's no need to look at intersection
True.
alternatives.
True.
So in essence, you would look at the realignment issue first?
Probably would need to be one of the first things we look at. Yeah.
But it would seem to me that even though you're going to look at the issues one at a time, you might look at the alignment and the bridge at one, and that wouldn't mean you would rule out the alignment based on that one workshop.
Right.
So you still want to look at the other options, so you have opinions on all.
My last question before we open public comment is, do you see these workshops, are we planning on doing them in-house, or do you see professional facilitation of a neutral party, or how do you see that? Because I know we've kicked around different ideas on that.
Yeah, we could do it either way. I essentially see it would probably be done in-house. Just for a cost-saving measure. Obviously we will bring in our consultants, our engineers and et cetera, that have looked at this and done work on the different alternatives to provide that technical expertise on how things would work. But probably just in-house is what I'm expecting.
To gain specific input and ideas.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you. And with that, I know there are a number of people who'd like to speak on this item, and so I'd like to open the public comment on item 11.2. Please come forward and state your name for the record. Good evening, Dave.
Hi. My name is David Price. And first off, I'd just like to say a couple comments that Cleve had talked about, responses to them. Excuse me. It is rather difficult to try to talk about 4 different segmented projects that have been combined, and then we're trying to take them apart and really look at the whole picture. So I've given this a lot of thought, and I don't think we have some of the answers that we need from staff as far as I've heard issues about trying to swap, for instance, the roundabout money to the county to do, and then have them give us unrestricted funds that we could use differently. There's several, I mean, I read the complete report and marked it up, and there's a million things I could say, but I think we need more answers to the questions that have been presented to the city council and to the staff on what we can do as far as with the money, and does staff actually think we could put another pedestrian walkway, or do they think that it could be attached to the bridge? Could we possibly put a bike trail that's down a little further? And so I think we actually need another type of informal chat or some type of meeting that we could ask people, and I don't think it'd probably be as well attended as the last one, but we need to kind of thrash over some things yet before we sit down and try to formalize a real structure to what we're trying to do. Because there's a lot of issues, and everybody's going to go, no, I don't want this, I don't want that, and it's going to be noisy, and we're not going to get anywhere. We're going to waste the money on the people that we have to come here to moderate it, and that's just my opinion. I think it should be given some pretty heavy consideration, though, because I've been to a lot of the meetings that we've had here and workshops, and some of them work and some don't. Some appear to be intended to convince the public on what the staff really wants to do rather than try to see what the citizens want too, because it's already been kind of an idea formalized that wants to be passed. And that's being polite to try to say it like that. So basically, I think we could also talk about some drawings, that we could maybe kind of sketch out and have a kind of a little idea of what things might look like. Things have been mentioned about dressing up the bridge with either round river rock, real rock, covered bridge. It's really an attractive, even though it's a parking lot, it's an attractive area. It has the old soda works. There's potential later, if Wilbur ever decides to sell the auto supply, that somebody could come in and make that a real attractive, older-looking structure that could fit in. We have Sweetie Pies, we have the older house in the corner, so it has some antique look to it that we really don't want to give up. And it's an important place in our community since we're very limited on the space that we have, and we only have one main street really, that we try to keep this whole district historical, because that's what it's about. Personally, if we had about twice as much space as we do, I probably could be convinced to put a roundabout in there. But we don't, and we've been told, even by the consultants, that it's a smaller than normal area, and that they said, well, we could probably make it work. And you probably could, but what would be the result? That's the real question. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I think most of the council was at the chat, and I think it's already been said that it was overwhelmingly in support of either doing nothing or doing a limited amount of work there. And I personally have gone out and spoke to hundreds of people when I was campaigning against redevelopment agency, and I've also had probably 10 different times set up tabling at the Cosmic Cafe, talked to farmers markets. I work for a place where we've got hundreds of people, and I feel that I've talked to a large portion of our citizens here in Placerville, and I think it's real apparent, and anybody that says it isn't is really kidding themselves, because nobody wants that really messed with a lot. As far as the roundabout, I think that's absolutely a dead issue, and it we really shouldn't even consider it. Personally, I think we need a choke point there because it's a place we want to have people come to. We have potential to use the parking lot for other functions occasionally besides the farmer's market. It's pedestrian, well used by pedestrians already. We have Sweetie Pies that has just people all over the place. Cosmic Cafe does. And again, we don't have a lot of places in our town like that. So why would we want to give up that valuable real estate to just make the cars go faster and get through, possibly congest, and increase the congestion, which would be what would happen if you put a 2-lane road off of Clay Street into the bridge area? You're going to speed up the traffic. It's not going to be a user-friendly area. And I don't really care what this guy that wrote his little book or came in and we got here and said that it's a pedestrian-friendly roundabout. I mean, he didn't know the facts because it's 5 years later and things have changed. So I would like to say that. And again, overwhelmingly, the support is for basically doing very little. So I went over the first, let's see. So I would like, my recommendation is that we start with kind of an informal meeting or two where we can get some people together and hash out some details, ask the staff for more information on where money can be used, what we can do with it, because I don't think anyone in this room is clear on that, what we can use, because we haven't even approached the county if we can do any swaps. If we're not going to do the roundabout, then we can just write that 1.6 off because it's not going to happen unless that's what's swapped. So there's a lot of questions, and I'm not prepared because I've only got 3 minutes, and I probably ought to reuse more than that. That's one thing. And the other is that I guess the last thing is that because I've got so many notes here, and I'm really not that prepared tonight, is that I really feel that there's, even though it seems like the opposition is hasn't been friendly about this, and there's been issues where we don't feel that we've been told the truth on things or information has been withheld. I feel that there is a possibility that we can have cooperation and that we can move forward on this, but we have to be honest about it. Everybody here needs to be honest, and there's not going to be any great winners because I personally don't want the bridge expanded past 1 lane. I'd like to have an isolated sidewalk and an isolated or combined bike trail. I want it to be a choke point, and I don't want an intersection, lights or signs. So I want it to be a low-key place where people can go with their family. It's such a joy to see people on Saturdays at the farmers market there. I don't know why we would destroy that. So anyway, I hope we can work together, post something out because it's really a waste of time what we're doing right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Good evening.
Phil Berry, a Placerville resident all my life, I guess. Anyway, I would like to urge our city manager in holding these workshops to avoid what's been done too often in the past, is just to present something and try to sell it. I'm really hoping that in doing this, you'll be able to take information from the public and what the public wants. And it sounds like that's what you're going to do, and I very much support it. That we consider all the options, and I'd like to emphasize the option to do nothing except perhaps the bridge. But at any rate, I hope that's going to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Hello again, Ms. Verkamp.
Hi. Hello. I only have one question at this point, and that is, after however many workshops that would be envisaged, how would the conclusion be drawn? Would there then be a public hearing at where there at which there would be the normal kind of input and decision would be made, or how does the decision get taken? That's what I want to know.
All right, we'll get that answered. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Robin Roars. I've made myself pretty clear that I'm in opposition of the roundabout, making Clay Street bigger because of the impact on Bedford Avenue with the traffic we already have. I've made it abundantly clear that if you clog up the Bedford Main Street with traffic moving quicker through a roundabout, that you clog it up at an intersection where you leave no place for ambulance, police, and fire. And you can't unring this bell. And I think that I feel like I'm being led to, I don't feel I have the confidence I want from my city council that they have listened to people being so negative on this, that you're going to have design meetings where money's going to be spent on consultants to sell us on something. I really keep hoping that that's not what I wind up feeling and seeing and witnessing, because I think the city council has a higher duty and responsibility and certainly has the intelligence to go further, as you did on this last meeting that we attended, which I thought was the best meeting that I've ever been to since 2005. I mean, there's plenty of people that keep saying, well, then let's do a referendum. Let's push for a referendum. Let's do a lawsuit. Let's get on top of a petition. They're not going to look at a petition, but it'd be good for a lawsuit. That's a lot of money and man hours. And all I can say is I'd rather be servicing my clients, spending money on Main Street, going out to dinner, than walking around getting petitions, which I'll do if the case is down the road that this is something you want to sell us and it's a done deal. And I really hope it isn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening. I just want to thank you for this time asking for public input going forward. So it is appreciated. I applaud the going forward with the public input on the workshops, and I would just like to make sure that, I'm sure it would happen, but all the documents, traffic studies, flood flows, bridge capacities for flood flows, history of flooding, all that kind of information would be there and available, or staff would be able to explain it, especially in terms that people can understand, even terminology like LOSF, level of service. People, they just glaze over. They have no idea what that actually means. I applaud the possibility of trading project restricted funds with the county or EDCTC, because so many people are screaming, why aren't you fixing the potholes? Well, they really just don't understand that government money is highly restricted on what you can use it for. So if they are screaming, needing money for the pedestrian and bike trail and by in and out there, and I'm guessing CMAQ might be able to be used for that. So if we can trade them for funds that we can use for something we actually want, it's a win-win. So please look into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Any other comments? Hello, Sue.
Hello. I think we need to get real. We have historic neighborhoods with a water supply equivalent to a garden hose. They have no real fire protection. We need to get some priorities straight. Messing around with something that's going to be very expensive. The roundabout's going to be expensive. Redoing Clay Street Bridge is going to be expensive. Is that really, with all of the public input that we have had for years, the overwhelming public response to the roundabout and the bridge have been no. People are starting to wonder, which part of no don't you get? Is it the N or the O? You're elected to represent us, not railroad us. And a lot of people are getting the opinion that on this roundabout thing, we're getting railroaded again. They didn't do a lawsuit because they loved the project. They did the lawsuit against the negative deck because that was the easiest thing to attack, because it really wasn't a very good negative deck. Now, we have put some other ones together and had no protests, even though they weren't all that great, because people thought it was a needed project. Nobody came and said, don't do the Blair Street Bridge. Nobody came and said, don't fix the one on Placerville Drive. They both need to be done. You got support for those. You've had no support for this roundabout for years and years and years. What is the problem here? I know that Mike Webb and Cleve Morris were not around for the whole history of the roundabout and the Clay Street Bridge. But I've been here for 20 years, and I've seen this one go along and along and along, and all of those things that are listed in the report as it needs to be evaluated certainly need to be evaluated before this project goes one step further. Those are supposed to be what you use to set up your existing condition. If you are going to do an EIR, you have to be very clear as to what your existing condition is in order to have alternatives to it, because that is your no action alternative. And if you're going to be honest about doing it, you have to evaluate that one as well. I'm glad to hear Cleve say he thinks that they need to actually listen to us again. But you know, we've been talking to you guys for years now. I'm not the only one who stood up here and said, is this really where we want to spend our money? I'm not the only one who said, we don't think a roundabout is the best solution for that intersection. And it gets down to, okay, so how many times do we have to tell you we don't want it? How many petitions? How many times do people have to stand by the farmer's market and collect signatures? How many meetings do we have to go through where we waste the city's time and the staff's time and the public's time to come to the same conclusion of people like it the way it is, leave it alone?
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to miss Chief Nielsen. I have to tell him that, and I'm sure you're going to miss these meetings.
State your name for the record, Sue.
So before moving forward, I would, it'd kind of be nice to go back and look at the money and options, because there are conditions, I think, with a lot of those funds. And it would be nice to be, I agree with Dave when he mentioned that, what are your options within those funds that you do have? Just to start saying, let's look at pictures again without knowing. I mean, if you pull out, what I remember seeing, there was 4 funds that came out to about 4.5, and if you pull out the roundabout money, would you have enough to do any of the projects? So that's kind of what I'd like to know, is the funding, and if you could take some of those funds and, like you said, give them back to the Transportation Commission to route towards another project, then that's the stuff I'd like to see, because 6 more months of workshops is just agonizing in my mind. I just would like to shorten this up, and I know you would like to come to some kind of conclusion too, and I know that's a lot of money to just give up, and I'm sure that's the frustration the city's feeling, but it's I just, like I said, like to see how you could salvage them, maybe thinking about something else, and if you don't move forward, are you going to have to refund some of those funds? Is what I'm curious about, if there's other motivation to keep moving forward, even though it may not happen, but you need to be in the process to not lose the funding. And then I just want to mention that the last meeting that we had on the town hall, the community sent out just handed out announcement of the meeting. There was no get together to talk about what people would say or do at that town hall meeting. That was spontaneous, what you saw. It was just flyers put out to the people within the community close to that project. And I was actually amazed by the feelings that came from that community. And that's what we're hearing when we actually go out on the streets and ask people, how do you feel about this? And you know, I heard that these people didn't represent the community necessarily, but they did. They were the people in Placerville surrounding that project that were just given flyers on their doorstep that the meeting was going on. So I hope you listened to that, and I hope you listened, and we do have a new day in the city, because I like to be doing, I have some projects I would really like to be working on right now than being here, so thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'm Deanna Wise, resident of Placerville, and I'm just here and I'm just kind of disheartened because it is obvious to me that the decision's made that you're going to go along with the project regardless. And I'd like you guys to take the time to do the hangtown.com and see what other people who don't come to the meetings are saying about it or don't understand how government works. I don't think I want it, and I get the feeling that the public isn't going to be really invited to the design workshops. Where we could come in and we could look and make quick comments and then hightail it out there, and you'll be able to go for your EIR. Design workshop number 1, these comments made, and then go through and continue on with the project. I hope you will think about the fact that you represent us, and we really, truly don't want the project, and we really and truly don't want another lawsuit, and we really and truly don't want a referendum, but that's what will probably happen if you continue on. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Hi, Kathy.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Lishman, and I honestly do not have an opinion about what is the best solution on this project. Once the controversy started on the roundabout, I said, I'm not even paying attention. I saw one of those flyers. They didn't exactly say there's a meeting. It said stop the roundabout. And the flyer was tacked to a pole along the trail, so I took it down because I didn't figure it belonged there anyway. I don't think doing a negative declaration was the way to do it, and doing an in-house negative declaration was the way to do it. I have a lot more confidence in our city council and in our staff than I have heard over and over again from a group of people who don't seem to be happy with anything you have done. And I appreciate you, and I know there are a lot of people in this community that do, and that trust you. I trust you thoroughly. I don't doubt, there is a difference of opinion, but I don't doubt your integrity, and thank you for serving us. I appreciated the thoroughness of the staff report, the answers to the questions, but it'll never be enough. There are questions that people want answers to, and I believe that you need to provide those, but I feel strongly that we need outside experts. I feel it's worth the cost, particularly in this situation where the council and the staff can't seem to do anything right in the eyes of some people. When you go out and try to get signatures on something, people are only hearing one side of a situation. You can talk people into signing anything by what you tell them often. I think the number at the community chat was not that large compared to the population of the city of Placerville. And I don't believe everybody in the room was against the council. The farmers market is important, but it is once a week for a few hours for a certain portion of the year. It should not control what gets done there. I happen to be a member of Community Pride who has adopted that garden, and we go and work there. So I'm there at that site at all different times of the week, not just at Farmers Market week, at Farmers Market time. Dan Burton, if there's any way the city could hire Dan Burton to come and to, because he was mentioned in the staff report, Gary Hayden is highly respected, and Dan Burton is too. And if we could have experts like that helping us make a good decision, I think we could make a good decision that's, or you would make the good decision, that's in the best interest of the community. And again, I appreciate what you do, and I totally, highly respect all of you.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening, Marion.
Marion Washburn, Azalea Lane, which is adjacent to Clay Street and 1/3 of a mile from the proposal. So Mayor Mattson, I guess it's Mayor Mattson for a minute, huh? Council members and staff. I will start by introducing myself in terms of my interest and qualifications to comment on this project. I'm a former member of the Placerville Historic Advisory Committee. That was a while back. I've served on the Placerville Planning Commission. I've served on the Placerville City Council. I've served on the El Dorado County Transportation Commission, as well as other transportation organizations. And probably much more interesting than that, I've lived in historic homes over 100 years old for most of my life. So I am a committed history person. So before going further, I want to acknowledge the amount of time and patience and conscientiousness that you have clearly brought to this project, because as it's been said by the opponents and the rooters, it's been going on for quite some time. So I know all of you have been working on that deeply for a great deal of time, so I commend you for that. If you will indulge me, I'm going to take you on a little trip down memory lane of previous Placerville projects. So please recall previous projects: the widening of Placerville Drive, the construction of the El Dorado Trail through town, including the depot station at Mosquito and Clay, downtown, Councilmember Patton's going to remember this one clearly, downtown revitalization, which included the period light posts, the benches, the signage, the landscaping plantings in the city parking lots, the relocation of City Hall, the new creek bridges up at Hangtown Creek, the railings, the light standards, the fencing, the pedestrian overcrossing, the replaced creek sewer line, and traffic lanes along Highway 50. Now, I mention those for a reason, and the reason is because every one of those projects, let me repeat that, every one of those projects had as much opposition as this proposal. And the opposition were for the same reasons that I hear in this room tonight and I've heard in previous evenings. So I think it's worthy of reflecting upon what would happen if those previous projects had been denied, the voices of opposition had been listened to and honored. So I'm going to go through the list again with what I view as the consequences. Placerville Drive, when it was widened, there was horrific opposition. If that had not been approved, making a left-hand turn on Placerville Drive would be nearly impossible. There was no lane to do that. There would now be stacking of cars for a great deal of distance. Traversing Placerville Drive would be truly a nightmare. Thinking about Main Street, we would not have the green historic light posts with the flowers. We would have the old aluminum Cobra heads. People fought hard for those aluminum Cobra heads, and they liked them, and they did not want them replaced, and they told us that in no uncertain terms. We would also have chewed up chain link fence bordering dirt, garbage, and parked cars on the right of way adjacent to Highway 50 instead of the wrought iron fencing atop the stone appearance that we have currently. We would have industrial type metal guardrails over the congested creek crossing bridges instead of what we have now is the period appropriate black wrought iron and the stone appearance of those creek crossings. We would have nightly backed up traffic from Bedford Street to Forney Road overcrossing every single night. We would have no pedestrians set aside for recreational walkers and runners and bicyclers from Smith Flat to downtown. And we'd have a highly unsafe public city hall prohibitive to anyone with a stroller, a walker, or a wheelchair, and even not so nimble elderly persons like myself. And we would not have greenery in any of the historic district parking lots. And I say this once again because every one of those projects had vigorous, boisterous, persistent opposition, exactly how I have heard it over this proposal. So the obvious question would be, would it have been for the public good to deny those projects because of that opposition? Would that be better? Would that make a better city? And the point is, these belligerently contested projects did get approved and built, and I think they resulted in an enhanced historic central city, not a degraded one. So I am asking you as the current council to please continue to pursue upgrading infrastructure so the rest of the city can live, can work, and visit a town that functions well and is pleasing looking. So I've got two quick points that are kind of separate, but I would urge you strongly to consider the aesthetic considerations just as strongly as the operational and the functional aspects of the project. And I am very much troubled by the fact that it's my understanding that fixing the bridge, not the roundabout, but fixing the bridge was a condition of approval on the Cottonwood subdivision, and I must think that cherry picking out conditions of approval on past approvals, legal agreements, is legal jeopardy if that's decided to be done. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Marion. Any other public comments before we bring it back to council? All right, with that, I will close public comment. All right. Let's start with, on comments, Councilmember Wilkins.
The way I understand it is that a lot of the design work has been done on the roundabout, so including that with, the money would be spending a lot, most of it would be on the other options, and it wouldn't add tremendously to the cost of the workshops to include the roundabout in that. Second, I want to say that I absolutely have heard I absolutely have been listening and hearing the people not wanting the roundabout. But I also see that there is value in hanging on to it for now, because until we know if we can swap the CMAQ money for unrestricted or more flexible funds, it doesn't seem like we need to let it go quite yet. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Hagan.
I guess I've been the senior member up here as far as length of time with this project. I do recall when several councils ago, and one of my biggest concerns was the Cottonwood project went through, and I've just read through the requirements today again, that the Clay Street Bridge is a substandard structure in width. So I think we can look at that project, and this is where it started. When I started on the council, we were working on the bridge, and in part of that bridge replacement funding, and the funds that came in from the developer at the time were to be used for the widening of the bridge. There could be possibly more than one way to do that, and maybe we've already done the study, or maybe the engineers have already done the study. I haven't heard of whether or not that bridge is structurally can be widened, or does it need to be replaced. I have a great concern over the existing freeboard and therefore flooding potential. Currently, it won't hit a 50-year standard. There are probably some properties in that area that are in flood zones that have extremely high flood insurance rates if that choke point is as it is. And so maybe the bridge could be widened, assuming you could address that issue. The other thing, and I've heard this for the 8.5 years I've been on the city council, is not everybody agrees with every project we do. I'll agree with that, and that's fine. Including a person I consider a friend out here, David Price. I have concerns over him as wanting to get together and look at some more drawings, and I'm going, I think that's what our city manager said. Let's look at this piece by piece. And I say, okay, let's take a look at that. I'm familiar with the color of money. CMAQ funds, the $1.6 million, are congestion mitigation air quality funds. If we pull the roundabout, which was added late when those funds became available and they were applied for, there is no guarantee that we will have access to those 1.6 million or be able to trade for them for some other project. You know, we could explore it, we could turn them back, and maybe we would get something back on it. Maybe we'd get some of it back, maybe we wouldn't. And I think that's the way you'd have to approach it. If you say, okay, we pull the roundabout and the CMAQ funds go away. Sue mentioned, or somebody out there mentioned, I'm not going to say names, the EIR process. It does open up new public comments. In other words, these hearings that we're talking about, these workshops, are not public hearings that go in the EIR. They are public design comments we're trying to get from everybody here, so everybody has a desire or at least an input into their desires. The EIR, after that, and we decided to go forward with an EIR for one of three, they do look at all alternatives. They have to look at the no-build option. That is number one. Then you come into, is it going to be realignment of Clay Street or not? Is it a four-way stop or a signal or a roundabout? So all of these things have input or options on there. I understand, and the biggest concern I have is in doing the EIR, maybe it would be a little less expensive without the roundabout in there, but the advantage of it, including it, is that a portion of that 1.6 million could be used to help with that EIR study and design. Does that mean that's the project we have to select? No. Just like it doesn't mean we have to select anything. I think do nothing is not an example or not something I'm going to vote for because of the existing requirement in '98 when the subdivisions went in that we had to do something with the bridge. I suppose, Mr. Berry, if you think there was a problem with the bridge or it wasn't, I don't know where you were in '98 when this thing was before the Planning Commission and that. And I'm going to pick on you because I know your name, not because of you. I don't like you. I just say, you've lived here all your life. You lived off Clay Street. Where were you when they were talking about the development? And if you didn't agree with that development, maybe you spoke against it, maybe you didn't. I don't know. But those are things that happened back then, and there was conditions put on the project. Those conditions, in my opinion, we have to follow through with as a city council. And I think we owe that to everybody to look at these options and what's available. I'll stop at that point. I've got a couple other thoughts on it, but I think that that's the restrictions on that color money, that's the 1.6 we give up for sure. The other stuff, I don't think we give up on the funds, and I think they're available as long as we keep making progress. The highway bridge program those funds are tied up for us right now. They would replace any parking loss. The farmers market, as I've opinion is, it's oversaturated right now. There's not enough parking for the farmers market as it is. I think that we have potential to expand parking beyond what's going to be given up in any scenario we select, and that expansion of additional area for parking offers the opportunity for the farmers market to expand and spread out a little bit and actually allow people to park at part of that the center right there on Ivy Street, Ivy House parking lot. So I sit there and look at it. It is an opportunity for the farmers market to expand a little bit and spread out a little bit and make us all enjoy that a little better than what we do now.
Thank you, Carl. Councilmember Borelli.
Yes, I know a lot of you probably get this little magazine from Costco, but I found an article in there that I thought really kind of that I would like to read, and it's an analogy with, and we're going to have to substitute companies for the city of Placerville, but I just thought that it said, even the best companies and organizations can get in their own way. Costco member Neil Smith, the Chief Executive Officer of Promontory Growth and Innovation, focuses on this in his book, How Excellent Companies Avoid Dumb Things, Breaking the 8 Hidden Barriers That Plague Even the Best Businesses. And it says companies need to understand what barriers they have, why they exist, and how they can be removed. Are any of the following barriers hindering your company? Number 1, avoiding controversy. Humans naturally avoid controversy, so when there's a disagreement, decisions are not made. Number 2, poor use of time. People prioritize their time badly or naturally procrastinate, both of which leave important things not done. Number 3, reluctance to change. Fear of the unknown typically drives this barrier, and as a result, things stay the same. Number 4, organizational silos. Close coordination and cooperation across silos is required to make decisions and implement them. When information does not flow freely or when there are misaligned priorities, things do not get done. Number 5, management blockers. Some people deliberately avoid decisions or prevent them from being made because they won't like the outcome. They are competing with the person proposing the change, or the decision might reflect badly on them. Number 6, incorrect information or bad assumptions. When decisions are based on assumptions rather than facts, or when information is hard to get, wrong decisions are often made. I'm going to skip number 7 because it doesn't. Number 8 is existing processes. It is difficult, if not impossible, to change existing processes, even if they become outdated or broken. This is usually because there is not a process to change the process, and if any change involves gaining the attention of too many people. I just thought that this kind of says it all for what we're talking about. I quite frankly think that there's some possibilities out there, and I want to see this go forward with more studies.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Patton.
Thank you. I'm guessing that I probably have the most institutional knowledge on this project. And I say that with all due respect because there are people in the audience and people that sit up here that have done a lot of things. But I was involved in 1998 as a planning commissioner when Cottonwood went in. I was involved in the Revitalization Action Plan, not only as a planning commissioner, but also as a member of the Downtown Association. I was involved in the Highway 50 operational improvements projects, and I've been involved in the Clay Street realignment to Cedar Ravine and Main Street for as long as this project has been coming down the pikes. And it started with the Cottonwood, with the bridge. But I think forward-thinking people, they look at the bridge and they go, well, why would we put a new bridge or fix this problem just to let it dead end into a problematic pedestrian section. And all you have to do is go to Sweetie Pie's on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning and you see what I'm talking about. The people, and the farmer's market doesn't even have to be there. There are people that jaywalk all the time through that intersection, and it's a problem, and it's going to get worse. And I've tried to stay quiet because out of respect mostly for this council and the idea of a new day. But these exact design workshops happened in 2005, in 2006, in 2009, and in 2010, and in 2011 when it finally went to the city council and got voted on. And every single one of those meetings, there was supporters and there were opponents. And it wasn't until the last year, 6 months, that a certain group of people tied redevelopment and the roundabout together, and the whole non-use of tax money, the Tea Party movement, all of that coincided to make a perfect storm, and they could basically dominate the hearings, which they do, again, which you do every single meeting. The same people talk. I have your names every single meeting. It's the same group, and they say the same thing. And I agree with Kathy Lishman that this group that's up here is elected to look at all of the city and all of the community. And infrastructure always disrupts business, always. It doesn't matter if you're just paving a pothole. It disrupts business. It disrupts residents. I live right up the hill from here. I heard Highway 50 Ops project the whole time it was going on. I heard of building the pedestrian bridge. We wouldn't have those beautiful amenities today if we hadn't fought the fight back in 2005, I think. If we hadn't gone through the revitalization project, we wouldn't have had the context-sensitive design that Caltrans had to agree to and gave us, I think, I don't know, $4 million project. I don't even know how much that brought to the city. We didn't pay any of that. Caltrans paid it all because we fought the fight before and came to agreement on what design standards we wanted as a community. And it was in those fights that Gary Hayden was hired to design Main Street, to develop the street standards that you have today. The benches and the lampposts and all those things to make it a cohesive design. When the roundabout came forward, and for any of you who happened to read the staff report, was back in, what, 1890? Whenever, the Druids built the monument, and it was in a circle. It was a traffic circle, and they said, and I'm actually going to quote it, because I thought, you know, here we are. They said, and a lot of us are for history. Marion Washburn lives in a historical house. I live in a historical house. Sue Taylor's rebuilding a historical building on Main Street. Placerville is the city where the portals of the past is recreated as a gift from the present generation to countless thousands of yet unborn. It is okay for us to have a nice intersection. It is okay for us to look at the aesthetics of this town and make it better. It is not okay, in my opinion, to turn a blind eye to failure of this bridge. And I'm wondering, as a community now that I sit up here, now that we know and it has been identified as a functionally obsolete bridge, if it floods, are we now liable? Could the city not be held responsible for not taking action when it was determined to be functionally obsolete? I don't know if that's true, but it's something that I'd like to look into. I'm just going to say it is a new day. I would love to see new engineering standards that are going to say something that everyone can agree to. But I'm guessing you will never get 100% of the community to agree to anything. So it's this group's job, and it's also the community's job to find resolution and at least agree to disagree. You don't have to like me, but But I like to think that you could at least respect me for sitting up here, as I respect you and listen to you when you come up to the podium. So that being said, I would like to move forward at least to look at option 2, to look at the designs. I have a little bit of a concern about segmenting the project because I think, like Carl said, I don't know how you can pull it all apart. And I'm just going to leave with this one final thought. If it's so funny to be talking about the funding, the CMAQ money, because if the community had not voted for a roundabout, the staff never would have gone out looking for that money. We wouldn't even be talking about it. But because they did that at that time, now we have at least this $1.2 million. We can either throw it away or we can use it. So I just find that interesting because traffic projects are thought of so far in advance. It takes years to get anything to an as-built, to shovel ready, as most of it, anybody who has worked in transportation projects knows. So I find it interesting that we are now looking at the funding and going, well, why don't we do this instead? Because generally, that is not how it works.
Thank you very much. We've all given this a great deal of thought, and insight. Where do I start? I've heard tonight, and I've heard at the neighborhood chat, I don't understand the problem. What is the problem? Well, there's a lot of problems with that intersection. Have you seen the Ivy House parking lot and Clay Street from Main Street to the bridge? It's a mess. The pavement is so deteriorated that it is just, almost beyond repair. We just got through a budget workshop, and we have a balanced budget. We have a city that's functioning. We are improving, and there will be no money. If we give back the $4.5 million in favor of doing nothing, there will be no money to fix the Ivy House parking lot, to fix the street. I think, as you will find in our next budget, that I think we have about $5,000 left over. We're a city, for Pete's sake. We have $5,000. Is $5,000 going to fix that parking lot? I don't think so. So I am not willing to give up this money where we can improve an important intersection in our town. Now, I'll come back to that in a minute. Other problems. Have you tried to turn left from Clay Street? It's a nightmare, absolute nightmare. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for cars, for pedestrians, and it's just going to get worse. That is never, ever, ever going to get any better. I want to address that left turn, that Clay Street, Main Street. That's a mess. Have you tried to get in and out of the Ivy House parking lot? It's horrible. It's horrible. It's hard to get out. It's hard to get in. People from outside of our town wouldn't even really know how to get into that parking lot because the only little opening they see is an exit only. And forget about trying to get into the Ivy House parking lot if someone's coming out. It's a mess. That's never going to get any better if we don't take advantage of these resources that are at our fingertips now. Just yesterday, I enjoyed our meeting, David Price. Dave and I sat on the intersection yesterday and had a chat about these things. And as we were doing that, I looked at a car coming down Clay Street, and there was a mother passing by on one side trying to walk, and then there was a lady with a dog. It's a mess. That bridge is very difficult. And what's the problem? Have you seen the problems with the lower level of the plaza by the creek? It's a druggie hangout. It's never going to get any better. That's a problem. These are all tremendous problems that we have in our grasp to fix. If we come together, get collaborative, get creative, think outside the box, and allow ourselves to imagine the possibilities. What if? I don't want to make decisions on assumptions. Heard a lot of assumptions in public comment tonight. I'm not willing to make assumptions that things are just fine when they're not. I want to revisit specific. I want to look at the traffic studies on Bedford and Pacific Street and really take a look at this with analytical eyes. I want to improve the aesthetics and the functionality of this intersection because right now, improvements can be made in that. We have $4.5 million at our disposal. Now, all this said, my goal is to move forward with improvements to this intersection in ways that make sense. I have tremendous doubts about our ability to do that as a community right now. I think the roundabout issue has been tainted. We made mistakes as a city with the process, no doubt about it, and the public has misused that information by intermingling it with things, and I don't think that's going to get any better. I don't think we can move forward with improvements to this intersection as long as the roundabout is in the works. My personal feeling is we need to take the roundabout off the table. We need to perhaps sacrifice the $1.6 million, and I hate to say that, in order that we can move forward with maybe $3.5 million and make improvements. Now that's going to take you two coming together with us. Meet us halfway. Let's have honest, collaborative discussions. We have not made up our mind here. Don't assume. Don't misuse and misconstrue and mislead the public. This is our town, and it's going to take all of us working together to do this. And I'm tired of the way we have worked together. So I want to take the roundabout off the table, and I want to move forward with improvements to this intersection that make sense for our community. Because I don't believe we can have a collaborative conversation that will be productive as long as that's in there, and I hate to say it, but I think that's the reality in which we're at. Today I have contacted Sharon, the director of the El Dorado Community Transportation Commission, and I've contacted Larry Green, who's the head of the Air Quality Management Board. I am pursuing our ability to trade CMAQ money, with both of those entities, and we will continue to look at it. I don't want to give up the $1.6 million, but I'm not willing to give up the $4.5 million for a stupid roundabout fight. So I won't vote for moving forward as long as the roundabout is in there. And I will be a passionate supporter of making appropriate, attractive, functional improvements to this intersection. And that's how I stand on this issue.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I move to proceed with option number 3, to proceed with the design phase, removing the roundabout as an option, but looking at all other options equally, and prepare sufficient documentation to proceed with an EIR.
I will second that.
Wait a minute,
Page 6, item, recommendation number 3. Any further discussion on that? Actually, we have a motion and a second on the table.
Well,
pardon me? Oh, no.
My discussion, my participation in the discussion is that, and I understand where you're coming from, but I feel as though you also said, and Carol intimated too, that this roundabout became an issue over a lot of false statements. So I feel like we're sort of giving in to, again, what we've been giving into.
We have a motion and a second on the table. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other further
I have
discussion?
I have a comment
Yes.
to make. When you pull off the roundabout, you already are saying you're not looking at all of the designs equally. And the reason that I'm cautioning against that is because the engineering studies that came through, and you may or may not, people in the audience may or may not agree with it, but you look at all the studies that came through, and it was by far, hands down, the best solution. So I'm just cautioning my fellow council people that you are already throwing out what was considered the best design phase, not only by one council, but multiple councils and planning commissioners. So It would not be my choice to pull the roundabout off, only because I would like to have it also included in this new discussion.
All right. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of moving forward with item number 3? Aye?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay. All right, motion does not carry.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with the design phase, looking at all options equally, prepare sufficient documentation to proceed with an EIR. And I say that in all honesty, I want us to...
Mike, your microphone's not on.
Your mic is on.
I'm sorry, I'll start over, I apologize. I'd like to work on option number 2, proceed with the design phase, looking at all options equally and preparing sufficient documentation to proceed with an EIR. And I'm saying that we're going to proceed with design phase to come up with the different options, to look at all of the options, either in workshops like Cleve suggested, over the next few months before we start the EIR. I think that gives us the best opportunity to really look at all options, and so that's my motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the second motion?
Aye.
Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
No.
Okay, motion carries. All right. And with that, we move on to council reports. Vice Mayor Hagan, let's start with you.
The first thing I want to announce is that this Saturday, out at the former Veer Camp Ranch, Watamatsu Village will be on. It's put on by the park and the American Conservancy project down there. It'll be at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. On the Saturday the 18th. We will also have some Japanese visitors from our sister city, Warabi, and we'll have one staying at our house, but they'll be in town from this Thursday through next Wednesday. So if you see them, welcome them. That's the primary thing. I've attended Senator Gaines' coffee this past week. Had a SACOG Transportation Committee meeting. I had an EDCTC meeting, Transportation Commission, City Budget meeting, and that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilkins.
Okay, last time I had one thing to report, and now I have like 9 things. But okay, so the most fun was the flower basket fundraiser, which I think all of us pretty much were there. That was a blast, and Carol selling, and I won a Mary Kay basket. The one thing I wanted, and it so happened I got it. So, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And then the next night we had the neighborhood chat about the intersection and the bridge. And then the next day, on Wednesday, we had the birthday party for the 100th birthday party for the courthouse. And then we all came over here and had the barbecue to say goodbye to Mike Webb and the chief. And Thursday was a transit meeting, and I went to the first dinner, and I learned about parklets. And then Friday, I met with a representative from the Healthy Eating and Active Living campaign, and that was really interesting. And then the budget workshop was on Thursday the 9th, and now we're here.
Thank you. Councilmember Borelli.
Well, I had a busy agenda too. I went to the Agriculture Roundtable dinner. I attended the neighborhood chat. I went to the courthouse, the 100th birthday anniversary, and then luncheon afterwards. And then I went to Transportation Commission meeting, and the transit meeting. Then I went to Senator Dave Cox Memorial Interchange Dedication Ceremony. And I went to the Senior Citizen Fundraiser, their taco fiesta at the Lions Club. And I attended the 2x2, the city-county gathering that we have been doing. I went to the budget workshop. And I went to the 4-H cake auction and the display for the 4-H activities at the fairgrounds.
Everyone's been busy, my goodness. Yeah.
All this in the name of being on the city council.
That's right. Councilmember Patton.
I haven't been that busy.
I'm sure that's not true.
It's because I go to work every day. Well, that's true.
All
but
right.
I know. I want to thank Councilmember Wilkins for bringing up the Flower Baskets fundraiser on the 29th. We made, I think, about $600, which was really helpful. And that the flower baskets are supposed to go up, and I don't even know, Wendy might even know this. But George, do you know when or Captain Scott, when the car show is? So it is Sunday the 19th. So they're supposed to go up just before that. So look for the flower baskets, and there's still some donation baskets out there. They're always looking for a little bit more money. The other thing that I wanted to remind the council about, and members of the public, and Stan's still here, and that is the walking tour of Placerville that's going to be this Thursday at 7. I think that sounds really interesting. I haven't had a chance to do one, but they're supposed to start over here at the little museum, and it's the docents. So I don't know if any of you are going to come, but I saw it on the agenda. I thought that sounds like a really cool thing to do on a Thursday night. So it's this Thursday at 7 p.m. at the museum. That's it.
Thank you so much. Tended just about everything everyone else
Wait,
has
I want to say Mayor Mattson one more time.
Okay. Thank you. You're cute. Attended a bunch of things that everyone else has attended. So my more notable appointments have been, not that those weren't notable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. Working really hard on a county site for Hangtown Haven, and we're making headway here, which is wonderful. And we've had a bunch of meetings with supervisors, and I'm dragging Vice Mayor Hagan along with me on all these, and he's been incredibly helpful. And I thank you for your time on this, Carl. I really appreciate it. Today we met with the El Dorado County Sheriff, which is a big one, and he is supportive of county site, and so that was a huge step forward. Really appreciated his time, Sheriff D'Agostini's time and support on that. Let's see, attended the 100th anniversary of the courthouse, and I was asked to give a few opening remarks, and it was amazing in researching that how little information is to be found on our courthouse on the internet. It was actually quite shocking, and after maybe 15, 20 minutes plugging along at it, I finally didn't have any time to do that, and so I contacted, thanks to the Historical Museum, Joanne Rogers of our Historical Advisory Committee, and she helped me out, and she presented me with all kinds of research and facts and figures on our courthouse. So I'd like to thank Joanne from our Historical Advisory Committee for advising the mayor for the courthouse history. Really appreciated her time and thoughts on that, and also wanted to let everyone know that we had the Indian Gaming. I never can remember the full title of this committee, but where we give away the mitigation money that the state allows for a casino to reduce the impacts of casinos. And we had about $50,000 to give away to entities that are impacted by the casino. We only had one person apply for a grant this year, and it was the sheriff's office, and they only applied for $14,000. So they were awarded $14,000, and we have $34,000 left to give, and we have to give it out by May 31st. So flower baskets don't qualify. Sorry, Carol. So we are going out again for grants, for bids for grants, and hope to give that away. We don't want to give it back to the state. So so if you need another police car, or no, I have to be. It has to be relatable impacts to the casino, and we could certainly provide that nexus, and we were very grateful to get that car the first time. Probably couldn't justify another one. So anyway, look forward to giving that away. And with that, let's move on to 14 city manager and staff reports. Mr. Morris.
No staff reports we have in addition to what we've already gone through, so nothing to report.
All right, thank you. Upcoming items, items tentatively scheduled for May 28th, 2013, include the levy of the landscape and lighting maintenance district assessments. a report on Dina Court pavement, which we heard earlier this evening is some of the issues that we've been continuing to look at. The first reading of the omnibus zoning ordinance changes, Goldbug Park deck replacement project, and the sewer rate adjustments. And thank Vice Mayor Hagan for handling that meeting. And the next regular council meeting will be held on May 28th, 2013, 5 p.m. closed session, 6 p.m. regular session. Thank you all for attending, and good night.